What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Oh, poor Joker. He just settled in. He literally just laid down. He jumped up and ran out of the room when I did that. You'd think he'd be used to the beginning of the show by now. Do it every single day. That's like one of our go-to handles. Anyway, welcome to a Monday show, gang. Hopefully your week's off to a good start. Hopefully you had good weekends. Great weekend here in the New York area, gotta say. New York Knicks, world champions. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You're going to have to indulge me for a moment on this one, gang. Long-suffering Knicks fan. I'm 47. I turned 47 in April. I've been calling it 40 years. You know, I always give a little bit of leeway before you're really aware. You know, even if you're watching with your family or whatever, you're not really aware of what a championship means. So I've been calling it like 40 years. You know, right after the title, texted all sorts of people all over the place, all my friends and everything. And one of my buddies who loves to quantify everything, put everything in, it's got to be hierarchical order. You know, I wrote to those guys. That literally made me cry. And it did. Quite literally made me cry tears of joy sitting here in this office watching that game. The response to that was immediately, that's awesome. How does it compare to the 94 Rangers Cup, the 96 Yankees title, in the first Giants Super Bowl? I was like, I don't know, man. Don't make me break it down. Just let me enjoy it. But man, what a series, what a run for my New York Knicks. They were good, but I mean, don't think anybody saw this one coming. Even through the playoffs, I was saying, look, maybe they get the finals. Beating the Spurs or beating OKC is going to be a tall order, and man, did they handle their business. I did not go into Manhattan. I'm back and forth. Depending on the moment, I'm either, I should have been there, or damn, I'm glad I wasn't there. Sort of depends on which footage you're looking at. Just utter chaos, pandemonium, bedlam in Manhattan. But I decided not to go into the city. A couple buddies of mine went in. They did like a dinner and then just, kind of wandered around. Said it was a good time. But it would have been hell getting back here. So enjoyed it at home. Maybe going to go to the parade Thursday. We'll see. Not a big fan of mandatory fun, but that seems like a good one to have mandatory fun on. Anyway, enough about my world champion New York Knicks. Shout out to EMAC, by the way, who shouted me out on his show on Sunday. So appreciate that. Let's talk baseball. We got a good Monday slate to talk through. Light pitching day, a lot of offense on the board, some interesting angles into the slate, so we'll take a look at that. Before we dive in, though, that is the live stacks board for today, so you can see all your various stack rankings. Just giving it away for the show purposes here. It's up on the website, of course. But as we dive in, ongoing home run picks contest is still live. We've got two people with two. I got to double check the scoreboard. I just did this in a hurry, but I think I got all of Friday's picks on here. As we put together the thoughts about the contest here, I just want to clarify. It is exclusively for the slates that are discussed on the show. No going to previous day's shows and putting in picks for that day over the weekend when there was no show. We're only picking games that come from slates that are covered on the show. All right, cool. You only get one Ohtani or Judge usage. I use that because I only use Judge and Ohtani once per season. You cannot use my pick of the day for your pick of the day. One pick per person per day. Got to use a consistent screen name throughout, or you won't get credit across multiple screen names. I'll count them, but they're not going to be added up. So you're going to have one here, one there. It won't work for you. The overall point here, though, is win yourself a free month of content at Rotoscouts. 1st to 5 is our winner. You have to leave your home run pick of the day in a comment after the show. Come back, put a comment under the show. Real easy. We've been getting a lot of entries, as you can see. So handful of correct picks. 2, I believe, on Friday. Loyalty Chisel, I don't think you made a pick if you're out there on Friday. If I'm wrong, I'll circle back and I'll catch it and we'll update. But Loyalty Chisel and Cujo currently tied in the lead with 2 apiece. Larry C picked off one on Friday with Nick Kurtz, so he's in 3rd. Nobody else has a correct one. I got a couple for myself in there. But you cannot use my pick, which we'll get to in a minute as we get the show started here. There's our Vegas board for the day. You can see a few meaty totals on there. 4 teams above 5 implied runs. We've got a game in, fortunately, not that Las Vegas environment, but the Athletics heading back to Sacramento, which is a launching pad in and of itself. They're in Sutter. 10.5 run total in that game leads the way. Both teams over 5. But we might be looking to draw a pitcher out of that game. It's going to be really ugly as we get there. Let's dive into this one. Let's say hi to everybody. It was a busy chat before I got here. Andy's here. Pirates Baseball's here. What's going on, gang? Clintwood. Saw a couple other folks as I'm scrolling down. House is here. Cooj is here. King of all trades. Good to see everybody. Greg Biancone. Antonio, what's going on? Good to see everybody. Hope everybody's week is off to a good start at work or whatever you're doing with your Monday. Anybody happen to catch the new Spielberg flick over the weekend? Don't put any spoilers in the chat. I'm dying to see it. I haven't gotten out to it yet. I fully intended to. I did rewatch Close Encounters over the weekend. You'll notice behind me, the DVD towers over here. Those of you who the trolls who like to criticize the backdrop, it's going back up. It's currently disassembled. And if you can see all around me, like surrounding me on the floor, are little piles of like 4, 8, 10 DVDs a piece. I got it into my head at like 2:00 in the morning on, I think it was Friday night into Saturday morning. Got a little ADHD wave to, hey, let's reorganize all the DVDs by director for the auteur directors. Like take out all the good directors, the guys who are like visionaries, and then put all their movies together individually and then make that like a section over here. And then like over there is just all the other movies. And I did that until about 6 a.m. I've got all separated out. Seem to be missing a few DVDs, but we'll get into that some other time. But it didn't have the energy. I need another ADHD wave to take over and kick me off to putting it all back together behind me. But I was looking for the reason that inspired that was I was looking for my copy of Close Encounters, which I did eventually find about half an hour into the effort, but then abandoned watching that for finishing the effort off. Did end up rewatching that over the weekend. Just such a great movie. But yeah, I wanted to do like that ET into the new one. War of the Worlds, I think, is not necessarily Spielberg himself talks about it as like those three are 3 unrelated movies, but in his head canon, kind of like a unified trilogy of subject matter. But he doesn't count War of the Worlds in that effort, neither would I. Quality Soul says, there's support groups for this sort of thing, Tara. We're very welcoming. Yeah, a little... some people call it a wave of inspiration, a muse, whatever. I think it's probably just ADHD kicking in, but undiagnosed. Anyway, let's get into this slate. What do you guys say? Reds pulling a decent total in the top game. That's Tobias Myers probably going to go like 3, maybe into a 4th inning. He was getting stretched out in the minor leagues. And then the Mets maybe hand off to David Peterson, probably just go more bullpenny. 4.5 implied total on the red side of that one. Frisky enough DFS team in a good hitting environment in their home park to get us started. They're definitely looking interesting. And then the Mets, they're pulling a 4+ implied total, or 4.01. I shouldn't call it 4+. They're going up against the class of the slate in Chase Burns. Obviously a tall order to get to him for an underperforming Mets lineup, but that's not a nothing total, and the ballpark is on their side. But Burns obviously standing tall at the top of the board as well on the mound. The Pods, the Cardinals, terrible Padres going into St. Louis facing Dustin May, another very usable pitcher on this slate. He's been finding strikeout stuff. He's been very, very good over the course of his most of the season, outside of his first 2 outings and a 4-run game that's now 4 starts back. He's got a 4.21 ERA, 3.84 xFIP, 3.22 actual FIP. He's been striking hitters out. So really interested in some Dustin May. I think it's going to be a popular spot, though. 3.86 implied total for the low-end Pods. And then the Cardinals picking up a lot of quality. 3.74 implied for them going up against the corpse of Lucas Giolito. Definitely seems like a good spot to grab some Cardinals bats. We've been talking about them throughout the season as, that team that they're just giving their kids run. But they've got a lot of real quality kids. They're actually playing a little bit better, I think, than anybody expected them to. We've got our big upside, our guy. I lay claim to Jordan Walker. Other people, I'm sure, can lay claim to Oneil Cruz out there. He was a little bit more obvious. Jordan Walker is our guy. We were the only people talking about Jordan Walker. Love that spot. 4.74 implied for the Cards. The Twins, the Rangers, just a 3.61 implied total for the Twins. They're going to be facing Mackenzie Gore, who can be a little up and down from time to time, but it's typically in 4 or 5 run fashion. The total meltdowns are few and far between. I think he's very, very usable here. Less than what I'd call safe less than what I'd call 100% trust, but he's one of the better options on the mound, and that's one of the lower total. Is that the low? That is the lowest total on the board for the Twins. 448, excuse me. Read that in reverse. 448 implied total for the Rangers. Little bit of improvement that we've talked about with some of the lefties starting to come through, with some of the pieces back. Wyatt Langford back in that lineup now. He had a decent weekend. So targetable spot for some Rangers bats. They're going up against Mike Paredes, who has gone 3+ in each of his full start and then a couple bulk relief outings. I give him 4. I don't like the looks of him. I definitely think we're leaning into bats on the other side. I just don't think there's enough there for DFS purposes. So it shortens up the pitching slate a little bit with a couple short options. Michael Lorenzen for the Rockies going up against Shota Imanaga for the Cubs in Wrigley today. The wind is blowing out. It's not extreme, but it's pushing a healthy total toward the Cubs in addition to just facing Michael Lorenzen does good things for offense. 5, 6, 7 implied for the Cubbies at home. Fire away with Cubs bats. That's the highest total on the board. They're not the top-ranked team. That is a very, very juicy total in a gettable spot for a team that ought to be a lot better than it's been. Shota Imanaga pulled himself together in his last outing. That was at Coors against these Rockies, targeting the Rockies on the road with a very good, very talented pitcher, I should say, always in the cards. The one hiccup with Imanaga is he had this brutal stretch where he was just allowing home run after home run. It was, if you remember, we ran this down before that Rockies game. Went through that one, 2 hit them over 5 innings, struck out 7, no runs, no home run, obviously. Walked 2, perfectly fine start. Prior to that, 4 home runs in the game before that, 3 home runs in 2 straight starts prior to that one, 2 home runs in the one before that, and then just solo shot or single home runs in 2 starts prior to that, but was really struggling with power. I like the looks of the spot, but don't be shocked if he goes a little bit sideways just on some home run balls. Troy Melton pitching a little bit better with a 2.81 ERA on the surface than he is under the covers. 4.56 xFIP. Couple of home runs allowed throughout his career so far, including 4 in the most recent start. That was against the Twins. 5-inning day, 4 earned runs on 8 hits. So it was 4 solo shots, struck out 5. Just pushing a little bit of power. The home run pick of the day actually comes from the Astros. I like Melton a lot. I think it is a both-sided situation. The kid's talented, but liking the looks of the Astros in their home park, that does good things for that lineup. 4.68 implied on their side. They're looking fairly go-to. 4.40 on the other side of that one for the Tigers. They're in the mix as well. They're going up against Kaiwei Teng. Had a couple decent days, but by and large, those were starting to look like those were outliers. Those were over performances, and he's pretty mediocre. 3.71 ERA, 4.19 xFIP. Nothing tragic there. 49 Ks in 51 innings. You could have a decent day, find some strikeouts from Kaiwei Teng, but looking like our money should be on the Tiger side of that one. The big game out in Sutter. 5s on either side, as I was referring to at the beginning. It's Jared Jones making just his 4th start back. Yet to pitch in the 6th inning, yet to go beyond 5, but did go 5 in the middle start. The results have been okay. He hasn't really melted down. Give up 5 earned runs in 4 1/3 in his first start back against the Twins. Struck out 6, 2 home runs allowed. A little wonky scoring there. 4 strikeouts in each of the last 2. 2 earned runs combined across 9 innings against the Astros and Dodgers is pretty good. Just a really challenging spot to throw him into for 5 innings, and then we get the A's bats against the Pirates pen. So that looks like a promising spot for Athletics. 5.45. They're not going to be a secret. That'll be a very popular team today. And then the pitcher we might want to consider in this game, unfortunately, JT Ginn. I trust that JT Ginn is a talented guy, and I kind of believe in some of the good starts he's strung together this year. Overall, a 3.15 ERA, but a 4.06 xFIP, I think, kind of speaks to that. That's, talented guy, but pitching over his head a little bit. Extreme hitter-friendly park. A lot of things working against us. No O'Neal Cruz for the Pirates takes a lot away from that lineup. I think it's a gettable enough spot. Ginn is okay typically at keeping the ball in the yard, finding some weak and medium contact, find some Ks against a free-swinging Pirates team. I'm going to use him. I'm also going to probably work some Pirates in hedge stacks and other lineups, though. But I do think JT Ginn's on the board, and then the Pirates at 4.17 implied, definitely on the board for some offense. That's a very both-sided situation. Let me take that again. Walbert Urena, I believe, has been finding some strikeouts in his recent outings, has been decent at keeping the ball in the yard. 4 home runs allowed to 55 1/3 to 242 hitters. Pretty decent pace of limiting home run power. But I don't like the looks of this spot. That's a very hitter-friendly park. The Diamondbacks against are drawing a 4.78 implied total. We've talked about that lineup enough throughout that you know what our general thoughts are about them, but it's leaning a little bit more Arizona bats for me than it is Urena there, where he's just kind of hitting the middle of the board or the lower middle. Ryan Nelson, believable that he could succeed here. 4.33 implied is one of the lower marks on this high-end hitting board for the Angels. There are some strikeouts in that lineup. Nelson's been very, very up and down throughout the season. Ultimately, he's a pretty low strikeout, middle-of-the-road type talent when things are going his way. 5.19 ERA, 5.03 xFIP this season, I think reflects that. He was quite a bit better the last year for the full season, though. And then we round things off with Nick Martinez pushing a big total 5.46 toward your slate leader Dodgers. And then coming back the other way, it's Eric Lauer pushing 4.15 implied total, but a fair amount of power toward the Rays. When we get there, you'll see, well, I'll pull it up now instead. When we get there, which is right now, you'll see the Junior Caminero comes in at a 17.52, which is pretty significant in the home run model. 20 would be double the magic number. We see that from time to time. But he's actually outpacing Ohtani's mark. I believe he's actually outpacing the overall home run pick of the day's mark, who is one of the other top contenders. And when I ran the Fangraphs game sims, Junior came up with a over 10% probability of hitting a home run, which typically, like, our good to very good options are in the 3 to 5% range. 10 plus is the highest I've ever seen the Fangraphs game sims report back since we've had them for a month and change now. So just know that this is looking like a ludicrous spot for home run balls. We'll come back to that thought in just a minute. Getting the pitching board here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Check out rotoscouts.com, rotoscouts.com. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen, our ongoing home run picks contest, which I'll mention a few times during the show. Got to leave a comment on the video. Can't use my pick. That's the long and short of it. It's got to be one of these 8 games from where you draw your pick of the day. Yeah, Pirates came out. I assume you're talking about the Spielberg movie. It came out on Friday. So maybe try and sneak out late tonight and catch it. We'll see. But dying to see it. Disclosure day, for those wondering. Chase Burns, top of your pitching board, 11-1, 11,000. Fairly priced, high strikeout guy. Just, that 4.0 implied total for the Mets and that home ballpark that he has to pitch in are the factors working against him. Obviously, the presence of Juan Soto could bend his day a little bit at those prices, and you do have to throw into the mix that at those prices, 3 runs kind of changes the nature of his outing. Fortunately for that situation, even if he gives up the 3, he's probably still in strong contention to be right neck and neck with anything Imanaga, May, Melton, the higher-end pitchers do here. And there's not a lot of depth to this board. There's also not a lot of great options from the bargain bin on this board. It's more a mid-priced kind of a slate as we're looking at DK. Yeah, me too, Pirates. Spielberg's the master. It's been fun, too. He's been out doing promotional stops all over the place. So all the different YouTube feeds that I get are all just pumping, half-hour Spielberg dumps into my life, and I love that, watching that guy talk about movies. I mentioned him being on the Rewatchables 2 weeks ago to do 2001 and how good that was. And there's a bunch of things going on like that, but absolutely the master. And can't wait to see it. So as I was getting at, we have a huge dip from 11 to 8,500 that Burns would have to cover. But he's got enough strikeout potential that even with 3 runs, the ceiling of these guys versus him shaving a little bit off, I do think he still competes there. So it's maybe not as potentially alarming as it could be, because I would expect Imanaga gives up a couple. May maybe cruises. At 7,300, that's a dynamite SP2 option. Burns-May combinations are going to be ridiculously popular across DK today. What I think I would explore at least is, what does it buy you if you're looking at putting together a May and a, hold your nose and grab JT Ginn, or maybe Mackenzie Gore is a much better option for that at 7,800 in what looks like a safer spot Vegas total wise. So I think it'll probably pay off to look at what you can put together among these guys. Gore's a part of that. Melton is definitely a part of that on DK. He's offset by price dramatically at 10-3 on FanDuel. I like him, like I said. I think there is a little bit of playability there, but that's an awfully high price with him pushing a little bit of power and quality and a mid-4s implied total toward the Astros. Over here, it totally works. He's 7,500, so no issue with that. It might pay to run a few where I wouldn't take Chase Burns out necessarily, but like we talk about, maybe you really thin slice Chase Burns to, give me 10% max exposure across this set of lineup builds, and you run a set where you're focused more on these 4 guys and getting the combinations of those specific pitchers and seeing what those lineups look like, injecting them into process. I really don't like the looks of Eric Lauer, despite where he's priced. He had a good start in his first outing for the Dodgers. He's been mostly bad on the season. All that power showing for the Rays, just all their run creation quality. He is 5,800 though on DraftKings. He projects reasonably competitively. It's a very low-end projection overall, but it's competitive with what most of this board looks like. It's a very high-danger spot. I think you can throw the cheap dart there. At 75 on FanDuel, I really am pretty skeptical if that even finds any kind of value. I'd probably rather have Ryan Nelson because I just have more faith in him finding an okay day, and there are plenty of strikeouts in that Angels lineup. 85, obviously, you're dealing with a price difference. 65, Nelson's easily in the bargain bin on the DraftKings slate. You can use him, and putting him together with one of these guys has a lot of purchasing power. Obviously, you're compounding your risk factors on the mound if you do that, but you can buy that back on a slate like this with bats pretty effectively. Tang, as mentioned, at 77. Dart throw, mixer, some short outings in there. I don't really love it. Was a bulk reliever to begin the season. There's a high danger Tigers lineup on the other side with tons of power, but on a good day, he can make 77 work. Angle to a quality start is probably limited on FanDuel. Angle to a win is obviously looking a little better. 7,000 on DK. He's in the mix, but I like basically easily all 4 of those guys better. And then these 2 guys coming in a little bit cheaper just makes them, I think, more interesting dart throw value guys. But Teng probably also slides down the popularity board, so he's a usable piece. Jared Jones, I think, is just in a lot of danger to give you a 5-inning day, even if things go great. Are you really paying the bills with Jared Jones in 5 innings there? Probably not. It's probably going to come with a home run ball against. It's not looking like a great spot, even at 7 on DraftKings. I have no idea who would use it or why at 91 on FanDuel. It's just the wrong price. Giolito at 82, no. 68, maybe a loose dart. He just hasn't been good, hasn't been pitching deep. It's a good cards lineup on the other side. Don't really like the looks of Giolito. Nick Martinez is a tough ask on either side at those prices against the Dodgers. Walbert Urena, 95 is challenging on FanDuel. He's been better than he projects, but that environment is working big time against him tonight. You could give him a few more points. You might see him in other spots projected a little bit more highly. I really don't like it. 83 on DraftKings doesn't really jibe with the prices of like everybody through here. He's competitive with Shote Managa, who is stretched out nearly 10 points beyond him in terms of projection. Mike Paredes, hard no. You're going to get a short outing out of both of these guys. You're looking at like 3-4 innings out of both of those guys max. So I don't think even at price on DraftKings you're dealing with either of them. And then Michael Lorenzen, if you're inclined to completely gamble at 55, at least he's not Eric Lauer, but he's going up against the Cubs. They're drawing one of the best totals on the day. It's a bad bad pitching environment there. I really, really, really would advise against going to that rock bottom price on Michael Lorenzen. So it is much more of a mid-board type of a slate as far as the mound goes. Tall Tale says, what's up, my peeps? Damn, I was going to play Lara. Sorry to burst your bubble as you walk in the door there, buddy. Look, can you play him? Sure. Come on. It's just you're going to a guy that's pitched to a 5.47 ERA with nothing about the xFIP or Sierra so far this year to suggest that he's going to get any better or has been unfortunate or anything. He's given up an 11.2% barrel rate. He's an extreme fly ball trajectory pitcher. These 2 numbers are honestly slightly below any emergency threshold while still being pretty significant impact numbers. 6.70 is obviously a little bit high, but it's also somewhat believable that this should be well above 4, approaching 5 maybe, if we normalize everything for the season. And again, there's just some titanic power on the other side. And they're very good run creators when they're going right. You've got, look at all this on base skill across this lineup. For the 9-man, that's a 340 average on base. If I take out, let's say, 292 across 65 plate appearances for Austin Slater, we jump to 346. Clip Chandler Simpson's surprisingly low 303. We're at 350 plus for the other 7 hitters. And Chandler Simpson can scratch out base hits against anybody. His quality is, been all over the place, I'd say, this year. He hasn't been stealing bases, which is absolutely stunning because it's the one thing he's supposed to do. 14 on the season and 267 chances. It just doesn't look like a good target with the Rays for Eric Lauer's success. He's low strikeout, upper medium type walk anyway, right? 8% strikeout minus walk rate, 16-1 minus 8%. That's not very good. So you're just dealing with like, this guy is just cheap as far as that goes. Being just cheap on a pitching slate like this one can actually get you over the top. It's one of those spots where it's a couple other guys have to fail. You probably got him with Chase Burns anyway, so you don't need Burns at the very top of the board to fail. A lot of believable failures inbound for all those other pitchers. So it could be the situation where, as cheap as he is, you don't actually even need him to have a day. You need him to not completely implode, but you don't need him to have a necessarily good day. Not as you would think about a good day on other slates anyway. So it is an option. It's more DFS angle than like actual potential for baseball success, if that makes sense. Wu-Tang. The Wu-Tang Clan halftime in game, what was that, 4? The big comeback. Fired up New York. Never looked back. Yes, I know you're referring to the pitcher, Tang. So I guess nothing left to do but dig into the game by game, huh? When I hit the get lineups button, you guys hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you feel like it. Notification bell to get your updates for when this completely variable show gets scheduled. Coming up on 4 o'clock, we'll rock and roll our way through this one. Couple early games, but nothing to be concerned about time-wise. We do have both these lineups in now. That's great. So Tobias Myers, again, you're probably looking at 3-4 max here. He did go down to the minor leagues to get stretched out a little bit, went 2 2/3 in his most recent outing against Toronto's affiliate in what was a full start. 2 innings of bulk relief work a couple days before that, inning and a third. So again, we're not exactly stretched out. It's probably 3 and then a traditional bullpen game. If it happens to be shorter, that might be where we get David Peterson. Peterson's just kind of lurking in the background of this. What I wouldn't do is use David Peterson on the mound unless you get some sort of confirmation that, yes, he's definitely going to pitch today. If we see that pop up, he'll get added to the pitching board. So if you see David Peterson suddenly with a projection, know that they've announced that he's going to pitch and you can use him. I wouldn't expect much out of him anyway. I don't think he's going to be all that usable. I don't know what his pricing is. 63. It adds another arrow to your quiver, so to speak, on DraftKings, but it wouldn't be one that I'd be rushing to get to. I don't think Myers is going to be overly usable here, 56, 57, certainly not on FanDuel, even with the cheap price. He's pitched to a 19% strikeout, an adequate walk rate. You're not bad as far as those numbers go, but you're also not good. About a 4-run pitcher is realistic, giving up some home runs, giving up major premium contact so far. He's lucky, honestly, to be at that 4.48% home runs, which is a very high mark, given the hard hit rate, the exit velo that he's allowed on that kind of trajectory, nearly a 20-degree average launch angle, 6.9% barrel. So he's missed, and probably through luck, missed a little bit on the combination of launch and exit velo. So know that the home run ball is definitely in play in a super friendly home run hitting park. The Reds do have some guys who have been driving the ball very effectively this season. You can see nobody above the magic number, but everybody, at least at the top of the lineup, not named Blake Dunn, who's a speedster, is at least fairly close to it. So there is some power showing for the Reds. 4.58 implied total. Still no Ellie De La Cruz on their side. Obviously sucks. We would love to have Ellie in this situation. But they're a very usable offense here for DFS, and there's no real reason to go Mets pitching. The other guy, 11,000, 11-1, Chase Burns, come on down. 15.1% swinging strike rate absolutely works. He's pitched to a 2.14 ERA. The more realistic expectation should be the 3+, but that's still elite. 3.20 xFIP, 3.22 Sierra. Striking out nearly 30%, walking under 8%. Great combination there. Does give up a little bit in terms of launch angle and barrel rate. It's a fly ball trajectory pitcher, so every now and again, if he leaves one a little bit fat, a guy like Juan Soto could behind the barrel for sure. 9.1% barrel. It's a lot of 3% home run rate, which is perfectly fine considering half his starts come in this ballpark. But there is a little tiny bit of danger. You can see Soto creeping up at 11.77 to lead the entire game in the home run model, which is totally realistic. But fire away with Burns much as you can carry. Know that he's going to be ludicrously popular as the lone actual ace on this slate. The one guy out there who can, realistically put up that 60-point FanDuel day, whatever. Not to say other guys can't do it, but it's much more in the cards for him. Mets bats against. You can ride the ballpark. You can ride the fact that they're going to be low owned if you want to take the angle of I'm going to use the Mets to attack all that popularity that's going to be on Chase Burns today for leverage purposes. I think that makes some sense. These Mets, as I mentioned, I've got my nose isn't running, but I've got a tickle on the front of my nose for some reason. It feels like there's a dog hair hanging there. It's driving me nuts. Allergies been killing me the last 2 days though. Anyway, so I do think the Mets have that usability for those reasons. You get a very cheap Bo Bichette who has found some quality recently. He's up to 8 home runs, slashing 239, 285, 361. Obviously a long, long way to go to be anything like he's been, anything like peak form Bichette, but we've got half a season left, a little bit more to work with. He's got a 329 xWOBA, which is slightly above average. Doesn't really strike out, puts a lot of balls in play. The hard hit rate has come up a little bit. It's looking a lot like previous seasons. So there's a fair amount to like about Bo Bichette in this ballpark for those prices. He pairs great and directly with Soto, who 3,800, 6,100. DraftKings got it right. FanDuel, we should never have him below 4,000. 293, 387, 561 season so far. 15 homers on the board. He's just utterly fantastic. 423 xWOBA means that he's technically underperformed on his way to a 160 WRC plus with a 401 actual WOBA. Carson Benji at the top of the lineup is kind of interesting. 7 homers, 10 stolen bases. Quality games have been abundant, but they've also, they come and go. Rookie just kind of finding his way, but 9.1% barrels, 43.5% hard hits are solid. 350 xWOBA to indicate the potential for a lot more to come. That's against a 316 actual. Kid is very talented. Lefty bat to throw into the mix from the top of the lineup. 36, 3,000, not really priced up. More a little bit priced up on FanDuel where you've got cheap options through the bottom of the lineup here, but he's worth that 3. And this is a totally usable price on DK. Jared Young's also very, very interesting in this ballpark. He's hit 4 home runs in 85 opportunities so far this year. He's got some thunder in that bat from the left side, and he costs 27 on DraftKings, 26 on FanDuel. First base and outfield eligibility just helps with the positioning of this team, so you can still get a big first baseman, 2 big first basemen going first base, util, and use Jared Young. So love that flex. AJ Ewing has been okay. 267, 339, 381. The on base is feeding some stolen bases, which is a big part of his skill set. He's got 7 in 120 plate appearances, 107 WRC plus, and you can see 335 xWOBA, but there's a little bit more lurking under the very average 322 actual that he's put up so far. Even if he doesn't turn into any kind of star, that's a good player for a $3,500 price tag. 28, a little bit more than just another outfielder. Gives you a lefty shot at Chase Burns as well. Semien mostly dead in the water all season long. 218, 271, 354. He has hit 9 home runs, stolen 6 bases. The occasional usable DFS day, I would stop short of even good. He fills second base for a cheap price. That's basically his primary attribute, and he plays every day. Brett Baty has a little bit of power that was on display throughout last season, has kind of abandoned him so far this year, but that is a guy I would continue to mix into Mets lineups in a spot where they're going to be low owned and good contrarian angle to find some leverage. I think he's a part of that conversation because he'll be an even lower owned component within the people who go to the Mets. They'll be less than eager to roster Brett Baty. Third base worked for 3,100. You just need that one day of being the guy who hit 17 homers last year. He plays 4 positions on FanDuel. That alone has value. 2,600, a lot of flexibility there. MJ Melendez, another lefty with some power. 4 home runs and 123 chances. Consistency is in no way the name of MJ's game. It never has been, but he's very, very cheap. He's carrying a 10.9% barrel and 56.3% hard hits over that 123 plate appearances. There's an awful lot of strikeout in his game. 33% so far this year, 35 last year, 25, 28 going back in time previously. But if he happens to connect, that is a guy who can put one in the seats for you for a very cheap price. Another guy who I think would be a key piece of going to the Mets today. And then Frankie Alvarez, a lot of that is also true there. There's a fair amount of strikeout, but it's not as dramatic as MJ. 238, 307, 397. Not a lot of consistency out of the young catcher, but 15.8% barrels, 5 home runs and 142 chances. And we've seen him go crazy for home run upside in short stretches in the past. That's a kid with a lot of raw power, if nothing else. So definitely a mixable Mets lineup. And quite honestly, outside of Marcus Semien, I would be somewhat intrigued by any of those Mets options. It might be a bad baseball lineup, but it's actually an interesting DFS lineup, if that makes sense, especially at these prices. On the other side, the Reds, the more obvious team here, 4-5-8. My hope would be kind of like what we say about the Rockies all the time, is just maybe fewer people use the Mets. Obviously, for one, they're facing the pitcher of the day. But yeah, maybe it's the Mets side of this one that is catching our eye a little bit more as I talk through this. And again, it's Chase Burns. My expectation is he goes out, lights them up for 6 innings, and has his way with them, and it's a bad Mets day. But just through that contrarian lens, that's what puts them on the board. Blake Dunn, 35-28, good table setter, a lot of speed, 5 stolen bases and 116 chances so far. Just a 91 WRC plus. Doesn't put great wood on the ball. There is a fair amount of strikeout in this game, so it's not super low strikeout type leadoff guy against that low walk rate. You do get balls in play, but we need to pull the consistency together. What I like about Dunn is that he gives you direct correlation into J.J. Bleday, Sal Stewart, Spencer Steer, Joanio Suarez, the bats we really want to get to on this team. The first 3 guys are all into the double digits for home runs so far, led by Sal Stewart. 13 homers, 10 stolen bases. Tremendous year for him so far, over 305. 114 WRC plus. A lot of barrels. Needs to push the hard hit rate, push the consistency a little bit, but that is a very, very good bat to throw into Tobias Myers. And then the Mets bullpen, or if it's David Peterson, you get a solid lefty-righty out of it. Bleday has 12 home runs and just 183 chances. By far the best that he's ever been over these first handful of games, more than a handful now. I don't think anybody was expecting this. So far, by the xWOBA, we can kind of expect that it's maybe not fully real. That's 12 points below his actual WOBA. But based on what the X looks like right now, based on what the premium contact has been like, his dramatic reduction from last year's strikeout number, normalizing back toward where he was in 2024, pushing a little bit of additional walk, there are good arguments to be made that this is going to continue. Probably not at the absolute peak, but reasonable expectation of J.J. Bleday to continue putting up quality. 7.56. He's just gotten awfully expensive on FanDuel at 38. Pretty expensive at 51 on FanDuel, but that feels a little bit more doable against the DraftKings cap. Steer has been good, 12.7% barrel, lacks consistency, but 10 home runs, can get on base, 333 on base clip, and 363 xWOBA under that 337 actual. So we've got another 30 points of upside to go. That is an interesting option who fills second base for a reasonable price. Outfield eligible on both sites as well. You can absolutely use Spencer Steer in your outfield. I just prefer him as a good second base option rather than taking him in the outfield and then a compromised second base option. Joanio has not been himself over 174 plate appearances, kind of bookending a long absence. 31% strikeouts is fairly normal for him. 8.6% walk is just fine, but we're completely lacking in the premium contact department, and that is a total aberration. That is not who he is. You can see it through the past few seasons. 49 home runs last year, just a 284 WOBA with a 275 X under the surface so far. Really, really struggling to find form. But if anybody in this game on either side, not named Juan Soto, I would expect Joanio Suarez to be your home run hitter today. 9.46 to bear that out. That is second behind only Soto in either of these teams. Noelvi Marte is very cheap at 25-24 for what the skill set is supposed to be. 3 home runs, 4 steals so far in just 59 plate appearances. He's usable. I wouldn't really consider him a strong go-to option, but if I'm getting to Reds already, I wouldn't take him out of anything that came up. Third base and outfield work perfectly fine on FanDuel as well. Matty McClain has strung together a few interesting DFS performances. 8 home runs, 10 stolen bases. Just ignore the rest of the slash line. Hope the 331 xWOBA guy continues to show up. 10% barrel rate is interesting from a player who we've seen go on tears of providing great fantasy games. So McClain, easy to use. Still second base eligible is nice on FanDuel for 28. That would get into the mix for shares there. I don't love that he's shortstop, but I think he's interesting enough given the multi-category skill set that if you're using Reds and you throw him in at short, that's okay. 3,500 also kind of works for that price-wise. Stevenson's always in the mix for good batted ball events from the catcher spot. He's only 2,900 there, so why not where you need the position? 25, he's at least a solid mixer on FanDuel at first base catcher where you don't have a go-to first baseman. The only other guy with first base positioning is Steer, and I already said you want him at second anyway. So would use Stevenson in that case, and you don't have to necessarily double up for catcher first base util to get there. And then our guy Edwin Arroyo. I know it's been rough over 32 plate appearances, as I called him out as a hot pickup for season long when he first got promoted. The kid is talented, no doubt about it. It's a matter of finding it in an awful hurry while Ellie is out here. So far, he hasn't done it, but he was setting the minor leagues on fire in terms of home run upside. He does have tons and tons of stolen base upside that's been present throughout his minor league career. The home runs were an outburst. They represent, power that he had 2 years ago. He hit just 3 home runs last year across the full minor league season, I think, and had like 11 before his promotion. So I do think that's still a very interesting prospect. He fills second base and shortstop for 2,100 on DraftKings. If you're using Reds, keep Edwin Arroyo in mind. What I would do there is probably any lineup where I'm using Arroyo from the bottom. Probably don't use Blake Dunn and just bring the kid directly into the quality there and use him like a wraparound. FanDuel, shortstop only. I like it a little bit less. Chase Burns, Reds bats. Intrigued by those Mets bats in a contrarian sense. They're playing in this ballpark too. Probably wouldn't use Tobias Myers or anything on the mound from the Mets today. Meech, what's going on? Yeah, that was cool. Tall Tale that they had Wu-Tang perform at that. I'm not, as you guys know, the biggest rap and hip hop guy going back, but that is definitely one, if we're going back in time to late 90s and early 2000s, that is definitely one that was in my wheelhouse time-wise. And I would say that's a group that I know a little bit better than some of the other ones out there. But yeah, pretty solid lineup of them too. I know they have that flexible lineup, but that looked like a lot of the originals, a lot of the founding members, ones that are still around. Meech, I haven't seen confirmation on Peterson yet. And the Mets are expecting like 3 innings out of Myers here. They were stretching him out to start actually working in that role. So, as I said, unless you actually see confirmation that Peterson is definitely going to pitch or that their plan is to have Peterson pitch, I don't think I would use him. Even if he does go, I don't think that takes anything away from the upside of the Reds. So just something to be aware of more than something to actually use for DFS. The way I put it was if you see him in the post-show update for pitching, go up on the pitching board. He's not currently up there. That means I confirm somewhere that he's actually expected to pitch. But even then, I don't know that he's going to land in any kind of spot where you really want to use him. Super hitter-friendly situation in that ballpark. The low-end Padres taking on Dustin May in the Cards. May has been pitching very well this season. Hit the like button whenever I hit the get lineups button if you haven't already. May's recent run, last time out, 6 innings against the Mets, 4 hit them, no runs, 6 strikeouts in that outing. That was a very good day. 3 earned runs over 5 2/3 to Texas at the pricing he lands at. It's perfectly fine. 9 strikeout day, only 5 hits. Not a bad outing, not a premium outing, but for the DraftKings price at 73, that day totally works. 7 innings against the Brewers, 1 earned run, 2 runs total on 2 hits, struck out 9, walked 0. Tremendous run. Before that, 5 1/3 against the Pirates was his lone mark over 4 earned runs since his first 2 starts of the season. He gave up 4 in that one. Struck out 7, walked 2, gave up a homer, a little bit wonky over 5 1/3. Not a meltdown day, though, and again, at price, it's at least keeping you in the mix. Every start from that one, which was May 21st, back to April 4th, he had given up 3 runs or fewer, and he only gave up 3 in 2 of those outings. The first 2 starts of the year still having a bit of an impact on the ERA, which you can see over here, 4.21 ERA. In those 2 starts, the first outing of the year against the Rays, 4 innings, 6 earned runs, 3 1/3 against Detroit, and the second one at Detroit, 7 earned runs, gave up a home run to the Rays, 2 to the Tigers. But we're not dealing with that right now. We're dealing with peak form Dustin May going up against the worst offense in baseball. I really like that spot. 9,800 I don't think is incorrect on FanDuel. DraftKings is the incorrect price. Take advantage, but that's going to be a very, very popular SP2 spot, or it should be anyway, unless the entire industry hasn't been paying attention. Giolito at 68. I don't think he's a consideration on FanDuel at the 82. Struck out 14.7% against an 18.9% walk rate. So in a category where 20 makes you an ace, like 17 plus makes you a reasonable starter in strikeout minus walk rate, Giolito comes into this game at a negative 4.21 for the season. So let that sink in for a moment. 6.57 xFIP under that 4.35 ERA betrays the lack of quality. 6.78 Sierra. He's putting nearly 2 guys on base per inning. It's just a recipe for disaster. And this is a good Cards lineup with a 4.75 implied total. Somewhat hitter-friendly situation. So I think we lean Cards bats pretty heavy. Giolito, in the handful of outings, the first 2, he went 5 in the first one at Seattle, gave up 3 earned runs, struck out 3, walked 3. Second start against the Athletics in San Diego, pitcher-friendly park, went 5. This was his best outing by far. 4 hit them, no earned runs, struck out 2, walked 5. His ERA for the day was 0. His xFIP for the day was 6.78. Got obviously very, very lucky to get through that one clean. So there's really nothing to like about Giolito, and I think it just pushes the upside towards the Cards. If you're Lucas Giolito's mom and you want to use your boy today, do it on DraftKings. Padres bats not in yet, but presumably this is at least something like what their lineup's going to look like. Nando Tatis hit his second home run recently. He's also got 17 stolen bases, as we've talked about, with the price down at 49, 3,000, and particularly with the second base eligibility on both sites. Those are reasonable numbers for a second baseman. If he's just any other name, that's perfectly fine. And especially with the authority with which he hits the ball, 10.5% barrel, 52.2% hard hit. 350 xWOBA under the dramatically underperforming 313 actual. There's still quality there. So he's still a go-to if you're doing anything Padres. He's still your go-to one-off from this team. It wouldn't completely stun me if he had an okay day, few base hits, double, couple runs scored, stolen base. That's your guy against Dustin May. If you're looking for a former superstar track, maybe a little bit less than type of a guy as just a one-off at second base for a perfectly reasonable price across sites, that's also at least in consideration. Dustin May not pitching so well that I would completely ignore things that came up Padres, particularly if that thing was a Tatis one-off. Jackson Merrill at 39.29, we know is a lot more talented than 207, 275, 344. You can see a little bit of it in the 316 xWOBA, but that's still well below average. Well, 0.04 of a point, not well below, but it's quite a bit better than the 274 actual, 75 WRC plus on the season, but has hit the ball.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Good. Nobody asked. Has hit the ball squarely. I think that's the thing to focus on if you're going anything Jackson Merrill here. Manny Machado has been just dead in the water all season. Him, Marcus Semien, a lot of our old names are starting to come back down the other side of the mountain. Some of them are already there. 44.29. I continue to believe, maybe it's misguided, that we'll see at least little stretches of old Manny here. He is still hitting the ball okay. This is not Nolan Arenado type contact over here. 305 xWOBA is obviously nowhere near where we want it, but it's quite a bit better than 269 actual at least. So let's get him up to like underperforming the league average by 15 points and then start talking about him on the come up. But I do think it's in there somewhere. Bogey at 42.29, 8 homers, 9 steals, a lot of up and down games. Mix and match piece took one in the dome the other day too. Mix and match piece at the absolute best. Gavin Sheets at 31.28 has 11 homers. You're just looking to pick off a little bit of lefty power there against Dustin May. 8.7% barrel, 45.3% hard hit. Not even approaching elite kind of contact territory. Not an overly intriguing option in the scope of the full slate, but if you're already going Padres, Gavin Sheets is one of your leading contenders for shares. Samad Taylor's had some interesting games, over 32 plate appearances since the promotion, 357, 419, 500, a home run, 2 stolen bases, 164 WRC plus. The xWOBA 50 and change points below the actual so far, but that's still a healthy 351. I do think you can mix in Samad Taylor. I just don't really expect anything to actually continue. Ty France, just a mix and match guy. Will Wagner, Rodolfo Luteran, all mix and match guys down toward the bottom of the pretty bad Padres lineup. The Cards, much more appealing squad here. They're more expensive, though. Got to call that out. These are pretty hefty prices. You're paying a little bit of a talent tax there for what the kids have done already this year. We look on the board. They land 7 by points, but 11 by value FanDuel. DraftKings is actually not problematic. 5th by points, 4th by value. You can see the top 3 teams all obviously requiring value play along with them. So yeah, 45s up there. Only Jordan Walker is really, truly expensive DK-wise. And you get some salary relief with usable pieces down toward the bottom of that lineup. You do that on FanDuel as well. JJ Weatherholt has been really interesting. Second base on DraftKings, second and short on FanDuel. Prefer him at second, but would use the talent at short. 10 home runs, 7 steals, getting on at a 359 clip to set the table for guys like Ivan Herrera in the next spot. 42.5% hard hits. That could come up slightly. Last year, he was at 47.4, 11% barrels. Had a tremendous year last year. A good year this year, particularly in the on-base department at 398, the run creation department, 38 points above average by WRC+. It's a very interesting catcher option. You can absolutely use shares of Ivan on the FanDuel slate as well. 34 on a team where you only got one other guy first base eligible. It's Alec Burleson. You can easily plunk Burleson into the outfield, use Ivan like he's their first baseman, and rock and roll. Burleson's been really good. Probably the best we've seen him. 13 homers, 287, 352, 496. Absolutely terrific, limiting strikeouts at 15.8, drawing some walks, but not a ton, and just striking the ball with authority. It's been a really good player, and he's made some notable adjustments to his game as far as just finding a little bit more power, a little bit more consistency. Really interested in seeing where his second half goes. Jordan Walker, as mentioned, our guy, 18 home runs, 10 stolen bases, currently carrying the weight for the dynasty team with Aaron Judge and O'Neal Cruz and a bunch of other guys out. Kid's been doing his thing all season long. If you haven't noticed, today would be a good day to take advantage. 42-56. I expect the cards are popular, but they probably dip a little bit in popularity compared to the very top of the board. Lars Nootbaar's been back in the lineup. He's been very interesting since returning to the team. 2 home runs, solid contact, 17.4% barrel, 60.9% hard hit. Those numbers are extreme right now because it's a very small sample of batted ball events, but they jibe with what he's done the last 2 seasons in and out of the lineup as far as premium contact goes. Typically strong side platoon at bats. Obviously, you got a righty on the mound today, so that doesn't matter. But it'll be interesting to see how much he gets against lefties and what the full scope of his season looks like. Right now, I'm intrigued by the power and the ability that he's demonstrated in years past to get on base. Right now, 13.5% walks against the slightly elevated strikeout for him. I expect strikeouts come down while walks might stay in that 13 range. At worst, they're coming down 11, 12, somewhere around there. But his on-base skills are very real. Mason Wynn, just a mixer, overrated at shortstop. Don't really like the option given the positioning. If you're using him to round out the 5th man in a stack, that's fine. But you've got other options to do that. Like Blaze Jordan at 25 is very interesting. Hit a home run in his first 12 plate appearances in the show. We talked about him the other day in his video from 10, 12 years ago when he was 12 years old, hitting a 500-foot home run or whatever it was. I dropped it in the chat. It's on YouTube. If you just search his name, you'll find it. Kid has been a masher throughout his minor league ascendance, though. So that's a very realistic power upside bat to throw into the mix against an absolutely scuffling Lucas Giolito who's going to let him make some contact. Kid hits the ball with a lot of thunder. Very cheap at a key position at third base. Jimmy Crooks is at least interesting. The reason that he becomes a little bit of a challenge is you probably do want Herrera more, but Jimmy Crooks provides you the ability to loosen up that price a little bit. Part of the reason they come up okay for value on DK. So like if you're going Weatherholt at second, Burleson first, Jordan Walker in the outfield, that's a 3-man that's nearly 5,000 apiece, 4,900 apiece, 14.6 total. But then if we pile in Lars Nootbaar at just 37 and we take Crooks instead of Herrera, then we're down to 4,100 apiece for the 5-man, 20,500 total. So that has immediate and impactful purchasing power. If you were to forgo Lars Nootbaar and take Blaze Jordan at third, now I'm filling out second, third, and catcher from this team while also getting first base and outfield with premium bats, and it brought it all the way down to 3,900, 3,860 apiece, 19.3 total. So I think that's a reasonable path toward building with the 5-man. There are even further ways to do that. If you went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that to get Nootbaar back in at the cost of Burleson, now you're at 37 exactly a piece, 18.5, and that's still a good build. Nathan Church is honestly not a bad mixer. He's been inconsistent, 257, 292, 395, particularly getting to first base, but he's got a little power. He's got the ability to drive the ball with that 8.6% barrel. He's hit 5 home runs and 178 chances. Little bit of speed. He's stolen 4 bags. I just wish he was more consistent getting on base so that we could call him a reasonable wraparound play, because right now he's really not. But he's not a bad end cap to a, later, if you're getting 2 guys from down here, grabbing the third one to pay for the premium guys up there, not a completely terrible way to build. It's a little bit more challenging on FanDuel because you only get the 4 bites at the apple, so you can't put in 2 guys that are going to dramatically reduce your prices without at least damaging your upside. Dustin May, know that he's going to be popular, probably more popular with the SP2 thing on DraftKings. 98 on FanDuel, you probably slide him through as, a mid-owned type option. That's a very good pitching option today. May, Cardinals bats, Padres bats, but they're not good, and really don't think we use Lucas Giolito in this situation. It meets pitcher-friendly park in Texas, so makes sense. And Gore's just a talented guy who does have all sorts of roller coaster action in his typical seasons. We've seen Mackenzie Gore be utterly elite, and we've seen him go out the next week and just take a total dive in a gettable spot. So he's just a little bit erratic, but it definitely makes sense that the home road splits. I haven't looked at him personally, but makes sense because that's a pitcher-friendly park. Tall Tale saying, hate to do it, but I got to play an SP against my pods again. Yeah, I think that's a pretty great spot, buddy. Steven, I just saw that comment. Stephen Lieberman saying, Terry got back fast from the UFC card. What a disgrace. I know E-Mac talked about that on his Sunday show too, but what an utter disgrace for our country. Oh my God. Won't talk politics, but just that ridiculousness. Guys doing motorcycle tricks in front of the White House. Anyway, before we lose viewers, 361 implied on the Twins side, 448 on the Rangers. Mackenzie Gore, let's pull up those home run stats. That'll be a good talking point. Why not? Again, this is a pitcher-friendly park, so that kind of jibes that he would pitch better here just in general. So far for the season, a 2.08 ERA at home and a 5.75 ERA on the road over 40 2/3. Obviously, there's a lot of happenstance in those numbers. The home road xFIP is 3.23, and the road xFIP, though, is 4.83. So notably pitching better even under the surface in home starts. He struck out 28% at home versus 22.5% on the road, walking 5.9 at home versus 13.6 on the road. So, yeah, there's obviously some, it's not my favorite because you're dealing with a very short sample, but there's definitely some back and forth in those numbers. And then let's see. Overall for the year, some of that back and forth amounts to a 4.18 ERA, 4.14 xFIP and Sierra, right about the same. So about a 4-run talent these days. Striking out 24.6%, one of the more notable marks on this board, but obviously loses a lot to walk. Again, the home starts so far is half that, but it's only a handful of innings. 11% swinging strike rate keeps him interesting. Has kept the ball in the yard by and large, but it comes on a fair amount of contact on a fly ball trajectory. So know that he does have that working against him a little bit. You can see some of that coming up in Byron Buxton, who's still above the magic number for home run upside, but nobody else in this lineup is more than like 2/3 of the way there. That's the obvious 3 guys there with Cody Clemens, Royce Lewis, and Josh Bell. Everybody else in this lineup, a little bit substandard as a home run hitter, 3.61, one of the lower totals on the board in this pitcher-friendly park. That also speaks a little bit to the Rangers pulling a mid-4s implied total to their upside, just going up against a scuffling, bulk relief type pitcher in Mike Paredes. Paredes over 10 1/3, 1 start, several bulk relief appearances, 17.8% strikeouts, 13.3% walk. At least it gives them a positive 4.44 strikeout minus walks. It's not negative like Lucas Giolito, but a 4.35 ERA with a concerning 5.86 xFIP, 5.25 Sierra, if you want to call that the true mark. Still very, very ugly. You can see only 1 pitch above average by Stuff Plus. That slider is well above average, but that's not going to get you by when everything else kind of sucks. 92 overall rating by Stuff Plus. Location plus, pitching plus, dramatically below average. This is just a target for Rangers bats. Bad as they've been at home, and much as I've talked about wanting to use pitchers against this team at home,
Some of that has changed with the pieces coming back into the lineup and some resurgence in talent with Jock Peterson anyway. But this is not one of those pitchers that I would want to use here, and I would use some Rangers bats against. You got 3 guys above the magic number, another couple guys closing in on it. So far, Paredes, extreme fly ball trajectory. Not bad as far as the hard hit rate, but is allowing near concerning amounts of exit velo on average. Yet to allow a barrel with those factors included is kind of surprising. He's allowed a couple home runs without a barrel. I like him to allow his first barrel and a couple home runs here today. Jock Peterson is a prime candidate for that, assuming Jock's in the lineup. Against righties, we always do expect Jock Peterson. He sits typically against lefties on the strong side of the platoon. The reason I said if he's in the lineup is because I'm just a little bit hesitant to guarantee it. Let me see if we got it. Because Jock's dealing with some hip pain. It kept him out of the lineup a couple days ago. Did play over the weekend, but just something to keep an eye on there at the top spot of the lineup. Oh, there he is. And there we are. Perfectly fine. Jock's in the lineup. He's very cheap, $3,000, $2,700 for a guy who can hit the ball with the authority that we know he can. 8 home runs on the board in a nice surge. 239, 344, 438. He's pulled together a good on-base percentage. That is a major source of home run upside. So that gives me even more enthusiasm knowing that he's for sure going to be in this Rangers lineup. Before we get into their breakdown, though, let's talk Twins. Even though they're a terrible-looking option today, you get the bad side of the coin day from Mackenzie Gore. You could have a little something on your hands from the Twins. But typically you're dealing with when Gore goes a little bit sour, it's probably still not going to be the day where he gets dramatically lit up. Hasn't given up more than 5 earned runs in a single game this year. He's done that twice. Gave up 4 earned runs in one other start. Every other start is 3 or fewer. So I think even on a good day, Twins are coming in most of the time 3 to 5 runs and have a pretty thin tail out when we get into that long tail, 10-run type day. Austin Martin at 33 at 27. Mix and match guy at the absolute best. The 349 on base certainly works from the leadoff spot, but he's a light contact guy, put the ball in play, maybe draw you a walk. So you're just looking at correlated scoring there. You absolutely would consider including his upside for that just to pick off a few key extra points if you're using Byron Buxton, the go-to on this team. 10.73 in the home run model. He's hit 22 of them on the season, and we just continue to hope for ongoing health because he's an absolute superstar. 397 weighted on base with a 349 xWOBA is something that we should call out. It's about 50 points below the current level of performance for the X mark, but I think the truth is maybe somewhere in the middle, which makes him just one of the best players in the league, which we already knew. 39-31 is a fair price on Cody Clemens, who's been outstanding over the last few weeks. 10 home runs on the board, 6 stolen bases, a solid slash line. 337 xWOBA says things come down a little bit around the consistency, but Cody's always been a guy who puts good wood on the ball. Last year, 12% barrel, 48% hard hit. This year, 13-2 with a 44% hard hit. That's a great option across 4 positions on FanDuel. 3 of them are key positions. 39 at first base and outfield on DraftKings. He's still a key piece, and I would use him, and I'd even honestly consider him as a one-off around sites. He's getting plate appearances lefty-lefty this year too, which is another key factor for him and in this game, and finding some success. I just don't like the positioning quite as much as I like the idea of putting him at second or third is really what it boils down to. It's going to be contrarian enough anyway, though. Royce Lewis has been good since his return. The slash line overall looks kind of ugly, but 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Okay for counting stats. We know that he's better than that slash line overall. And since he returned, we're talking about 33 plate appearances ago. He's hit 3 of those home runs. 379, 424, 759. It's essentially a week and change of action. But he had been out since mid-May. Or not with the Major League squad, I should say, since mid-May. In that stretch in the minors, from the 21st of May through the 5th of June before the recall, he had hit 8 home runs in the minors with a 340 average. I don't have on base or anything on this tab. Let's see. 340, 417, 868. This is obviously a shaky, I'd say, but established major league talent going down and finding that success in the minors. So you don't give that too much credence. But when he comes up rocking and rolling right after that stint, it is just maybe a good sign that he's actually gotten something figured out. So very cheap pricing continues for Royce Lewis, who's third base eligible on both sites. Josh Bell, just a mixer at first base. He's making okay contact, 10% barrels, 41.6% hard hits. Total lack of consistency. Can't get himself to first base with reliability, just an 80 WRC+. Kyler Fedko, right-handed bat, not in your lineup on either site as far as I can tell. I'll double check if they added him. Luke Keeschel, mixer, 34-28. Hasn't been as good as we expected him to be. 245, 323, 325 is at least stabilized a little bit. 10 stolen bases, some counting stat upside. But we expect a better hitter in terms of line drives, putting the ball in play, getting to first base in the long term. Creedler, mix and match type guy, 3 home runs, not a lot of success over 74 plate appearances. And then we've talked a little bit about Alex Jackson and just his ability to blast the ball for you as a $2,100 catcher where you need the position. Last year, 5 home runs and 100 plate appearances. Year before, 3 and 155. He didn't do very much with those chances, 222, 90, 473 around the edges, but he did put up interesting numbers as far as the barrel rates in both of those samples. 9.1 is just okay back in 24, but it showed a little something beyond the total lack of quality we were getting. And then an outstanding 14.8 last year in that small sample leads you to believe that the kid can hit a home run from time to time. Yet to do so in 31 chances this year, but some upside for sneaky power from the bottom if you're just going fishing against Mackenzie Gore. Gore, kind of middle of the road, as I mentioned, as far as the power goes. This is probably surprisingly low given that premium contact, but I don't expect, given where he's been in years past, 294 last year, 205 on somewhat similar contact, at least last year. I don't really expect it to rocket, way up on him as the second half continues or unfolds. The Rangers, the more desirable one of these lineups. I already talked about Jock Peterson, but again, he's really accepting the last 4 games after I picked him up essentially in the Dynasty League as filler when Judge went out. Had a not great week, missed 2 games last week, but has tons and tons of upside and had been surging and has always been a guy you want to have from the left side against bad, vulnerable right-handed pitching because he destroys those pitchers historically. 11.66 in the home run model. Love the upside for Jock today. Josh Young is just having a good year. He's still very fairly priced at $4,000 for third base on DraftKings. 31 on FanDuel also works. 307, 367, 465 years so far. Excellent 353 xWOBA, a little bit lighter than the 365 actual, but not so much so that it's betraying anything. He's dropped, however you want to say it, 9 points off of his strikeout rate year over year. It's a really interesting bat, still fairly priced. Wyatt Langford's downright cheap on DK at 3,300. Not totally sure what they're doing over there with that price. He's your highest projected Rangers bat right now. 3 home runs, 3 steals, 241, 285, 397. This is a guy who went 22-22 last year in home runs and steals. A lot of upside for any given DFS slate, especially against this starter. Brendan Nimmo, another quality lefty bat with some power in it. Solid barrels and hard hits this year. Good at getting on base. 330 on base percentage. 107 WRC plus. One of several guys in this lineup above average for WRC plus. He could continue a solid surge and 371 xWOBA, but we don't know where that's going yet. That indicator is a good reflection of the contact he's made, his ability to get on base or limit strikeout. So that's a really interesting piece. He's 3,400 on DraftKings, inexplicably 29 on FanDuel. Jake Berger's got a 12+ in the home run model to lead the team. He's got a dozen on the board already this season. Jake has always been able to just crush baseballs. 9.8% barrel, 47.3% hard hit, but you can see double-digit barrel rates each of the last 3 seasons with similar hard hit rates. So a little bit of lack of finding his true form, his true quality, but that's entirely reflected in those prices. 3,300 is cheap for this spot on DraftKings. 3,000 on FanDuel. Fire away with Rangers bats. They're cheap and interesting. Alejandro Osuna, Cody Freeman, Nicky Lopez, and Elias Diaz leave something to be desired down the bottom end. Osuna from time to time has put up some interesting fantasy days in small samples. 253, 372, 274. Most of what he's done is just get on base to set the table for other guys. When you're doing that ahead of Cody Freeman, Freeman might be interesting because he's mid-price at second base, mid-price at third base across sites. Maybe that's a combination, but probably more on DK where you're going like those two to lower the prices of See, it's really silly because those guys are so just cheap for the top slice. It's 3,400 a piece for those top 5 hitters to face Mike Paredes. That's just stupid. Texas is 5th by value on FanDuel while pulling 9 by projection, and honestly, that could have been a little higher. They're the 9th highest Vegas total, though. They're first on the value board on DK, and you can see they're second on your home run board. It's an interesting spot that maybe, hopefully, sneaks by people because they've been bad, because they haven't been great in their home park, because they're ninth by Vegas total, not first or second. You can see the home run pick rules. Ongoing home run picks contest. Win yourself a month of Rotoscouts content. We haven't gotten to my home run pick of the day, but you cannot use them when we do get there. You have to leave your pick after the show in a comment on the video. There's still a few of those free weeks roaming around or sitting there waiting to be claimed as well. We got rid of most of them last week, but a couple of the ones that Cubs bought for people are still sitting there. Totally free first week on a weekly plan. Everything's under $1 a day to access all 4 major sports. We only get one sport going right now. Nothing I can do about that. But get it behind the scenes. Check it out. Give it a free little trial balloon of a week. Promo code CubsWin, all in one word, capital C, capital W. Free first week on a weekly, 0 commitment on your part. Just cancel it before it renews, and it's totally free. We'll renew at the regular price of $6.93, I want to say. Let's look at Freeman since we got a minute. He was here last year. Didn't do much. So far this year, as a 25-year-old, primarily a AAA, but it's only 74 plate appearances. 297, 351, 438, an interesting slash line. 2 home runs on the board. Both came in AAA. Last year, he made 121 plate appearances in the show, 228, 258, 342. Nothing to write home about. Hit 3 home runs, but made 426 AAA plate appearances last year. Blasted 19 homers, stole 8 bags, slashed 336, 382, 549, had a 131 WRC plus, a 402 weighted on base with a 304 xWOBA under the surface. So really, really overperformed in that stretch. Interestingly, struck out just 8.7% of the time against the 7.5% walk rate. So you were getting a lot of really, really well struck balls in play, but dramatic overperformance from Cody Freeman. At worst, though, second base, again, third base, dead mid price. That makes him probably your most interesting guy down here outside of Alejandro Osuna's ability to get to first base and set the table for Cody Freeman. Nicky Lopez, not much of a bat. Elias Diaz, the occasional ability to drive the ball. 36 pretty good plate appearances, pair of home runs, couple good batted ball events. He's very cheap at catcher. You're probably looking at him more on DK. He hit 9 home runs in 283 plate appearances last year, 6 with a decent slash line across 351 back in 2024. So he's a capable, experienced guy. Wouldn't surprise you at 14 in his best season back in 2023. Wouldn't surprise if you saw some success against a nothing pitcher from the bottom of the Rangers lineup. I'm going to say Texas bats, especially with those strong value marks. I think they're going to be coming up pretty crucial here. Texas bats follow closely behind my Mackenzie Gore. Twins bats because we just don't really want Mike Paredes here. Clintwood says, let's go Rangers. I like it. Cubbies pulling a near 6 implied total. I believe the highest mark on the slate. Number 2 on your stacks board behind the Dodgers. Number 3, behind the Dodgers and Athletics. A's, your worst team for value on DraftKings, but your number 2 ranking, number 3 by home runs, number 3 on your Vegas board, and all that upside against Jared Jones in that ballpark. Dodgers just difficult to suppress with all that talent going up against Nick Martinez from the 2 spot, but the Cubbies are your highest implied total team going up against Mike Lorenzen here. The wind is blowing out at Wrigley, but not to the extreme levels. You can see Michael Busch, 9.35 in the home run model. Suzuki, Ian Happ, PCA pulling respectable enough marks. Lorenzen, when he's going right, can keep the ball to a reasonable launch, 10.7 degree average launch on the season, but a lot of hard hit in that, fair amount of barrels. 3.44 on the home run rate is probably at best realistic. It probably should be above 4 because you can see last year on a slightly higher launch, but otherwise pretty similar numbers, was at 4.13%. And that's definitely in the cards. So it is a vulnerable enough home run pitcher. But there are days, and on the road, there are days where Lorenzen can put together just days where he's given up runs in other ways than home runs. So just know that that's in the cards a little bit. Imanaga has a major home run problem, 5.20%. We talked about the 4-3-3-2-1-1 totals going back in time prior to the outing at Coors Field, where he pitched very well against this Rockies team last time out. Didn't allow a home run, got through the game with a decent total. Today, he's one of your more top projected pitchers. I think he's more interesting at 85 on DK. I think probably comes up more lightly owned than the rest of the top of the board on FanDuel for 10,000, where I can't imagine even against the Rockies, people are really finding that much trust. But this is a talented pitcher. 14.7% swinging strike rate against a free swinging Rockies squad. He's striking out 24.8% and walking just 6.4. That's an 18.3 strikeout minus walk rate. So that's very, very good and a good indicator of future quality, as are the XFIP and the Sierra at 382 and 366. It's really just been those oddball home runs. He's an extreme fly ball trajectory pitcher. He's made some mistakes that have landed in the seats against him. A lot of everything else looks a lot like Shota Imanaga. So I really have no issues going to him, and I'm not all that interested in getting to Rockies. They'll be the lighter-owned team in what looks like a reasonably good hitting environment in Wrigley. I wouldn't knock them completely off the board, but a sub-4 implied total is not doing them any favors as far as Vegas goes. You can see Hunter Goodman's drawn a massive home run mark, 14.57 against all those homers and the power that Imanaga's allowed. And even when Imanaga's going right, he is a fly ball pitcher who can allow a fair amount of home runs. So it's not off the board even if he has a good day. Goodman's hit 20 on the season, $5,200 catcher on DraftKings. Reflects the power, reflects the quality. It's fine. It's a high price to pay if you're looking at him as like a standalone piece. You're just saying, going to one-off Hunter Goodman at catcher on DK to get some power upside, but go to other teams for my stacks. That's not going to really help you at that price. I think he plays better as a piece of a stack, even if it's a short one, where – let's say you're feeling, I don't really love using Tovar. You know who we use? Is Cole Carrig. Carrig, Goodman, and then one of the guys above Goodman get a little bit of correlation there. I'd probably just take another outfielder at 36. You could make an argument for Willie Castro at 300 more at second for that as well. That puts me at a $3,900 price for that three-man, 11.8 total. Just feels a little bit better than going all the way up the board. Obviously, if you've built a lineup leaving catcher out, thinking I'll one-off catcher with whatever I've got left, and you happen to put something together that has 52 in it, absolutely grab yourself a one-off of Hunter Goodman. That'll be a low-owned one-off at that price. 38, all of that stuff applies on FanDuel. He's also got outfield eligibility on FanDuel, which just makes him easy to move around the board. It's a nice little bonus. 5 stolen bases for Goodman on the season as well. Willie, fit him in at second base for 39. That's reasonable. He hits the ball with consistency, 42.1% hard hit. That's been lower in the past few seasons, though. A little bit of an uptick there. 278, 350, 402. Nice recovery from a slow start. Now I think we're seeing some overperformance, and it normalizes back the other direction. 336 weighted on base, but a 296 xWOBA under the surface. Willie's ultimately just an average utility type player, but hitting leadoff if you're going to this team already definitely puts him on the board. Tyler Freeman, a little bit more talented than that overall. 270, 349, 378, a 330 weighted on base with a 325 xWOBA, just a 95 WRC plus that we could conceive of him getting a little bit above average if he finds some luck. A lot of balls in play out of Freeman, not particularly well struck, completely miscast on a smarter team. He wouldn't be hitting second, but there you go. Playable piece, but not a big upside piece, more a correlated scoring option. TJ Rumfield hasn't exactly crushed baseballs, but he's low strikeout, upper medium walk rate, so he could get himself to first base a couple times against the Imanaga. 361 on base. He's hit 9 home runs from the left side, but we're not really looking for power here from him. 6.91. I'd rather just get him on base ahead of my Goodman home run. Tovar at 38-27, having a bad year. We've seen tons of inconsistency from Ezequiel Tovar. What we can find from time to time is a just good piece of premium contact. 8.3% barrel is down from the 9+% he's put up over the last couple of seasons. A lot of swing and miss in his game, even when he's not striking out. He's just missing the ball. Don't love the option. Don't love the positioning. Very, very cheap if you're already going to this team, though. I mentioned Carrig, switch hitter. So far in the show, 26 very good plate appearances with 2 home runs on the board, a couple good batted ball events. The name of this kid's game, though, is speed. He is a absolute burner as far as once he's on base, swiping bases. Has yet to do so in those 26 opportunities in the show, but he's also got the ability to drive the ball, more doubles type power than home run power, good on base skills throughout the minor leagues. So that's a really interesting piece to add to this Rockies team in the long term, and just kind of an interesting guy for season-long pickups. Actually added him to cover some absence for O'Neal Cruz over the weekend now. Not that he's going to be O'Neal Cruz, don't get me wrong, but limited outfielders in our deep league. Kyle Karras at 28-27, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, some decent batted ball events, not super high quality, but 7.1% barrel, 42.6% hard hit. He's also drawn some walk, 12.7% walk. That's putting him on at a 343 clip. That's a more interesting option than a lot of the other pieces from down lineup. He's cheap at third base. Braxton Fulford, just kind of a mixer at catcher. Cubbies lineup doesn't look like it's come in yet. Meach says, Cubs so low for home run rank, painful like them today. Again, Meach, that I wouldn't discount them by any means. It's just a little bit of Lorenzen working around the edges, and then a little bit of lack of output starting to have an impact for a guy like Michael Busch, Alex Bregman. You know, you got 3 guys into the double digits for home runs so far. PCA, Ian Happ, and Seiya Suzuki. Busch yet to find the talent, missing some of his barrel that we saw last year at 17%. That's down to 11.6 this year. He's also lost some of the consistency, the hard hit dipping from 47.3 to 43.4. He's found plenty of walk, and that's keeping his game afloat. 377 on base is elite. 354 weighted on base, 353 xWOBA, 127 WRC plus. I do like the power to come back, and it is entirely reasonable to expect it in this game. It's just a little bit. Lorenzen, again, last year, 4.13% home runs. The year before, 3.17. Some up and down, some back and forth there, but not one of these guys who's giving up a 10+% barrel. He's a reasonable fly ball trajectory pitcher, but he shaved some of that down so far this year, which is having a bit of an impact. And some of those numbers come in Coors, 3.21% home runs, including Coors in 25 outings all the way back to 2023. So in 2 of the last 3 years, plus what he's done this year, he's been a little bit better at just missing the barrel and keeping the ball in the yard through happenstance, not through talent, but he's avoided the home run total while pitching to the home run quality, if that makes sense. If we're going Cubbies bets, we finished on the Rockies, right? Yeah. So definitely, again, Meach, that I don't think that home run number is so low for the Cubs that it should take your eye off the ball as far as that 5.67 implied team total as far as run scoring, because this is a team that's very, very good at sequencing and doesn't always succeed off the home run ball. Look at the on base. With the exception of Dansby, who's much better than that 284, that's an 8-man on base percentage average of 341 for the 8-man lineup. Your next lowest guy is that 319 on Nico, who we know can get on base more than that. If we take Nico out of the mix, 344. If we take that 327 from Conforto out of the mix, we're at 347, and so on and so forth. So this is a team that's just excellent at sequencing, excellent at getting to first base, extending innings against bad pitching. All of that is on the table for the Cubbies here. Do not diminish the Cubs just because they have, average home run ratings, or honestly slightly above. I'll give you one better. Cubs. Run sim. I think they were coming up a little bit more power impact than here you go. You'll like the looks of this a little better. So the way the Fangraphs game sims work is on rest of season, like backbone projections. And you can select a few different ones. I use the Steamer rest of season projections. My model works on a combination of different models plus my own, and then drawing some average in the back end. So it says Steamer over here because that's what I used to use, and now it's the last few years been a combination thereof. But the Fangraphs that I'm about to show you drives all off of the Steamer one. And these are where the Cubbies home run marks are. So like I said at the beginning of the show, typically you're dealing with like 3 to 5% probabilities, with 5% being very, very good. 4s obviously being middle of the road, 3s being about average, and then some dips. You can see 2 guys above 5, another couple in the 4s. One of those is just underperforming Michael Busch, and that's why I brought up the season-long nature of those projections that the Fangraphs Game Sim runs off of, because it doesn't necessarily know as much as it ought to, or as much as my model probably knows about Michael Busch's current underperformance, the dips in some of the other things. It also probably doesn't include as much. Steamer's rest of season projections certainly does include some of his years past before he really found it all last year. But my model's got a longer memory. So that's where you can find some of the difference between like the extended version versus the just day-to-day working off of just, a somewhat ignorant backbone. So truth, somewhere in between the two, I'm sure. But maybe that bolsters your confidence, Meech, in those Cubs power bats. And again, 935, 881, right? Those are the two guys that were in the 5s. 6 on Nico, 7 and 6 on those guys. Those are not nothing numbers. Those do reflect those quality from graphs. PCA of 53 at 36 has become the most expensive Cub back in the leadoff role. 12 homers, 16 steals. Not looking back. Really found it again. Love the upside, and hopefully it continues. 11.3% barrel, near 50% hard hit, 353, 357 across the weighted on base categories. He's just tremendous. Back to full go PCA, and enthusiastic about it. Bregman, nice offset for price at 41.29. That's still a good player. 253, 34, 356. If we're just looking for sequencing, that's a great option. He puts a ton of balls in play, still can draw the walk. And if we're looking for power, I still wouldn't knock Alex Bregman for any kind of lack of power output so far this year. 6 homers on the season, but we could see him surge second half and get himself to 18, 20. Mikey Busch talked about the underperformance so far, but again, excellent through some of that slash line, creating a lot of runs, a lot of quality showing there, and some premium contact. These are in a vacuum for you to take the name off, take the last year's performance off. Those look kind of like previous seasons, and those are good, just vacuum numbers. It's just he was elite in the contact categories last year. Say Suzuki's also come down from where he's been on contact the last couple seasons. Still 10 home runs on the board, 255, 339, 433 slash, 116 WRC plus. Looking a lot like he's just playing, about to his talent level right now. But we know we can see surges. We know we can see monster games for batted ball events, as indicated by those years past of premium contact. And I like the ongoing upside to reach back toward those levels. Maybe it's the 11 and a half, but double-digit barrels definitely in the cards for this hitter. More consistent hard hit rate definitely in the cards upcoming. Ian Happ has been tremendous. The consistency is not great, but 15% barrels and 46.3% hard hits, 16 homers, a 337 on base out of him, 126 WRC plus. Plenty of consistency as far as I'm concerned. Draws a ton of walks, just strikes out a fair amount, 32%, but we're not really concerned about that against Michael Lorenzen's 17.2% strikeout rate this year, 21% last year, 18 the year before, 17.8 the year before that. So if we're just normalizing, thinking below 20% is appropriate. Nico kind of scuffling his way through since they gave him the money. 240, 319, 337, 4 homers, 12 steals. Looking a lot more like an average middle infielder, but we know Nico's better than that. 6.6% strikeout and 9.5% walk at worst. We're getting a few good batted ball events, hopefully good ones, against a nothing pitcher out of Nico. So if people go away from him, dip in the lineup, the price has come down commensurate with the underperformance. People go around Nico, go to other options. That's still a dynamite second baseman. Michael Conforto at 38 at 25, 327 on base. A couple of good batted ball events from him. 14.5% barrel, 53.2% hard hit across 113 chances. Just need to see him in the lineup a little bit more consistently. 338 Woba with a 346 X under the surface. It's a good player with some thunder in the bat from the left side. Miguel Amaya, mix and match quality catcher, and then struggling Dansby Swanson. I believe in the turnaround. You just can't see anything here that would indicate that it's going to come. It's not going to come from over here. We're just on faith with Dansby from years past at this point, but would probably still use him because nobody else is gonna, and he's awfully cheap. Cubbies bats, Imanaga, Rockies bats, Lorenzen's tall order. 55 is the only place you could even consider it on DraftKings, and it isn't gonna work out for you very often over there. I'm talking, you roll this game 100 times, that's probably paying off less than 10%. Tigers 4.40 implied, Astros 4.68 implied. Interesting game for bats on both sides. Kaiwei Teng at 7 at 77, I do think is probably usable, but not good and low expectation. Just a very low price that fits in with some of the other guys, and he's had a few interesting days. 7 full starts, 51 innings with some bulk relief appearances in there. He's found an okay league average type strikeout rate. peaked at 7 in 2 different performances, one against Texas, one against Milwaukee. 5 innings against Texas, 7 Ks, 4 walks back on May 16th. 2 hit them, shut them out, but the 4 walks obviously problematic. Has walked at least 3 in 4 of his last 5 starts. 2 in the game where he didn't walk 3 and only struck out 1 in that game. Gave up 4 earned runs, 5 runs total on 7 hits to the Pirates. Last time out against the Angels, struck out 5 but walked 3, 5 earned runs, 7 runs total on 7 hits, and was out of the game after just 4. Took the loss. He's completed the 6th inning once. Struck out 6, walked 3 that day. 2-hitter against the Cubbies at Wrigley. That's your Michael Lorenzen success type day today, but I don't expect Lorenzen to do even that. But it does show that a bad pitcher occasionally can beat the Cubbies at Wrigley. I don't think there's a lot here for Teng. Stuff plus below average. Hasn't been bad as far as the home run output, but it comes on a fair amount of hard hit above the emergency threshold exit velo, kind of middle trajectory. He's just managed to miss the ideal contact that leads to barrels, but it's in there. Tigers can find it. They've been inconsistent on the season, but they've got some true high-quality home run hitters in that lineup, like Kerry Carpenter, like Riley Green, Dylan Dingler, Spencer Torkelson. Not a one of those guys above the magic number, though. A little bit of the reflection of Teng's ability to keep the ball in the yard so far. Last year, 1.44% home run on a 3.9% barrel. Just 31.6% hard hit. Was pretty elite at limiting hard hits that year, but was giving up an 89.4 mile an hour average exit velo on some fly ball trajectory. That was in 29 2/3 over 7 starts. Year before that, in 11 innings of relief work, gave up a couple few home runs, but we can't really count those. I think he's more vulnerable to the home run ball than might be reflected by the totals so far. Tigers could change that in a hurry here. Troy Melton, I think he's good. So far, we're only getting a 13.7% strikeout rate against a 5.9% walk rate. That's got to come way, way up. The walks can stay right where they are. He's a better strikeout pitcher than that. 2.81 ERA, so he's found some success in those first few games in the show, but he's gotten a little lucky on his way there. 4.55 xFIP, 4.81 Sierra. You can see not really concerning as far as any of the premium contact numbers go. It's a medium type trajectory. He's gotten a little unlucky on the 4.9% home runs in the small sample. Ultimately, it amounts to the 4 home runs from last game, really kind of bending that number a little bit. Faced the Twins last time out, went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs on 4 home runs. So it was just 4 odd batted ball events that cost him. 8 hits total, 5 strikeouts, no walk, and was done after 5. Start before that, he went 8 at Tampa Bay. Pretty good start. 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Again, gave up a homer in that one. Didn't give up a homer in either of his first 2 starts. First one was at Baltimore, 5 2/3. The Orioles have been very good at creating runs against right-handed pitching this season. He was outstanding that day. 1 earned run, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks is not great, but that's a good start for the money. At the White Sox, just 1 strikeout, 1 walk, obviously lacking in those departments, but 1 earned run on 6 hits and went 7. That was in his second start. It's a high-quality kid with some expectations. Just comes in at 10-3, which is absolutely bananas on FanDuel. That probably renders him really lower owned. He is not at the top of the board, but he at least competes with it from there on a light pitching day. It's just there's so many other options at better prices with similar upside and more ceiling than Troy Melton's giving you right now. Would really need to find the strikeout stuff to pay off that 10-3, and the Astros are not a great target to do that against. They've got ridiculous upside. 75, you're just dart throwing at value on DraftKings, so that's fine. If we're looking Tigers bats, Kevin McGonigal, 47-34, third base eligible on both sites. That's where I keep landing him so that I can get high-quality shortstops, but he is a high-quality shortstop, so I have no issues using him at short. I just love that the third base eligibility is there, and the price is still great, or effective, I should say. It's not totally discounted, but being under 5,000 for the quality he's put up so far is interesting on DK. 383 on base, 363 xWOBA under an already tremendous 356 actual, 126 WRC plus, 4 homers, 9 steals. Kid's just excellent. Not going to look back. Gleyber Torres, just one of our guys around here. 397 on base out of Gleyber. Do not sleep on that player. 4 home runs on the season after some missed time. Hasn't really found the premium contact yet. The hard hit rate comes and goes, but he's a little bit, actually the barrels are around last year 8.2, last year 7.9, this year 7.9, going back to 2023. Gleyber, His skill set is being very low strikeout, very high walk. So he either walks his way to first base or he finds a batted ball event to put the ball in play and take his chances. He's been tremendous at it this season, was excellent last season in an underrated year where people just thought he wasn't good because he only, quote unquote, only hit 16 home runs. It's not a bad total for a guy getting on at a 358 clip with a 363 xWOBA under a 332 actual. That was second only, I believe, in xWOBA at second base to Ketel Marte across the entire league among qualified second basemen. Gleyber Torres remains very good. Totally underowned every single DFS slate at a key position at second base. Kerry, love the upside to drive the ball. 9 home runs on the board in 155 chances, 11.2% barrel rate. Tremendous lefty home run hitter. 252 ISO. Has a 346 weighted on base. He's overperformed the consistency a little bit this year. 311 xWOB under the surface. But we're just looking for the batted ball event. He's 4,000. He's 2,900 against Kaiwei Tung. 10. Kaiwei Tung. Whatever. I don't know what that might mean in his, what is he, Japanese? No, that's not a Japanese name, is it? Is he Thai? Where's he from? He's Taiwanese. So, I don't know what Kaiwei Tung might mean in a combination of Taiwanese and English, but that wasn't his name. Kaiwei Teng. So yeah, Tigers bats in play. Hopefully they go a little underappreciated. 440 implied total, not crushing the top of the board, but interesting for upside. I could see this one being a very interesting game stack that maybe falls off the radar a little bit. You're dealing with Houston, 5-9 on FanDuel, 5-4 on DraftKings. And Detroit's kind of buried. I'm surprised. I didn't notice that I was doing that. It's commensurate 10th by Vegas total. Interesting for value from the 9 spot, but just ranked 12th on my stacks board. I didn't fully appreciate that I had them that low. If I was manually changing things here, I might push them up the board a little bit. I think they're more interesting than my own stacks ranking maybe has them. But hopefully that's a good sign that other people miss that as well. I'm not going to change it because I think it's appropriate for the Vegas total. Looking at this Astros team, Jeremy Pena, 44-33. Good start to his year, 149 plate appearances, missed some time, 271, 342, 391. We saw him have a very good campaign last year. What I like is still consistently low strikeout, drawing some walk, getting on base. I think the barrels, the hard hits eventually come back to around last year's levels. Right now, we're looking more like the guy from 2024, 2023, and he's been successful even with that profile. 328 WOBA is slightly above average. 358 xWOBA says there's a lot more to come. 108 WRC plus. If nothing else, that's a usable shortstop ahead of one of the best bats in baseball at 62.45. And the key bat to going to this Astros team, Mr. Jordan Alvarez at an 18.35, actually does beat out Junior Caminero. And that's good because Jordan Alvarez, the home run pick of the day. I went a little bit chalky, gang. What can you say? With the Athletics, with the Dodgers, with a lot of other spots drawing the eye, Jordan's going to be popular. It's no secret. But maybe Astros stacks with him becomes a little bit less popular, and we can start putting together some interesting combos. You guys in the home run picks contest cannot use Jordan Alvarez because that's my guy. Christian Walker, 12.24 is another good pick for you out there, though. 18 bombs on the season in 299 plate appearances, 11.5% barrels, 45.7% hard hit. We have nicely stabilized over like 2 weeks now at that 21.4% strikeout rate. We haven't gone back up toward this level or even this level. That would be concerning. I'd love to see him pull it back down below 20, which he's got the opportunity to do in the ongoing sense. DraftKings has yet to notice the quality this year. Even if he's just a power bat, 4,200, that totally works. 35 on FanDuel is about correct. Isaac in the home ballpark definitely picks back up the home run upside. This is the best home run park in baseball for Isaac Paredes' home run profile. Just pulling the ball down the line into left field. So 9 homers on the season, 9.13 in the model today. Love the upside for Isaac to find one. He's also good for just correlated scoring. He's low strikeout, fairly high walk, a lot of opportunities just getting to first base. And there's usable pieces down lineup. Jose Altuve is at worst a mixer that we know very, very well. 6 home runs on the season. There's nothing really great to talk about through his slash line, but that's just a former all-star that you can easily use at second or in the outfield on FanDuel. Taylor Trammell, we've talked about a few times. Super interesting 81 plate appearances so far. 288, 350, 384. 329 weighted on base, but the concern in the 256 xWOB under the surface hasn't exactly destroyed the ball, but is finding some success. Curious now. Taylor Trammell is not particularly fast. Okay. I had him in my head as being fast. Was faster back in 2021 as measured by StatCast. Yeah, not as fast as I thought he was. I was going to suggest that maybe he was fast enough to be one of those guys that defies some WOBA, ex-WOBA back and forth, but apparently not his game. Striking out a little bit too much at 35.8% is obviously concerning. Not drawing the walk like he did in small samples in a couple of seasons past. Something to keep an eye on there. That's where some of the potential overperformance comes from with Trammell, but an interesting mixer in the outfield for those prices and a kid with a lot of talent. He's probably ultimately quad A these days, but once upon a time, that was a intriguing up-and-comer. Cam Smith, a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits on the season. Hasn't gone really anywhere. 218, 303, 356. Does have 7 homers, 8 stolen bases, though. When he gets on, he can run a little bit. When he's at the plate, he can put one in the seats. That's another very cheap, intriguing outfield option to use. Bryce Matthews has hit the ball effectively. 10% barrel on the season. No real consistency for that, but 6 oddball home runs. Not a popular guy, so people don't tend to use him. Second base eligible on either side is probably where you want him at a fair price. Christian Vasquez, just a mixer at catcher. Astros bats, Tigers bats, Kaiwei Teng, Troy Melton. No, sorry. Troy Melton above Kaiwei Teng, I guess, given the projection. Boy, I don't like that back and forth with anything I did with the Tigers. Don't be surprised if you see Troy Melton come down slightly from those projections. I might get in there and tinker. I'm feeling like that's a little bit too juicy. 75 on DraftKings. He's on the DraftKings board. Don't get me wrong. But it's a pretty high danger spot. And he hasn't found the strikeout at the major league level yet. And the top end of the Astros lineup, where all their good bats are, doesn't really strike out that much. That's not a great combination. For the 10-3 on FanDuel, I get very, very concerned. But Astros bats top thing. Astros, Tigers, call it a tie for the pitchers right now. Melton projects out a little bit better right now. On DK, man, it's still back and forth, given the pricing. Sorry for a little confusion there, guys, as I'm thinking that one through again. 5:12, we'll have time to update it after the show. Let me hit the lineups button, see if we got these in. You guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Promo code CUBSWIN still buys you a free first week, capital C, capital W, free first week on a weekly. There are fewer than 5 remaining. Go grab one now. If you hit the wall and it says it's not eligible, that's because you weren't quick enough. So get out there. Go over to rotoscouts.com, rotoscouts.com, rotoscouts.com. We're also running that home run picks contest. Got to leave it as a comment after the video. Pick has to come from the slate we're talking about. Can't use Jordan Alvarez today. That's my home run pick of the day. You only get to use Ohtani once. If Judge is back before the contest ends, you only get to use him once in the full scope of the contest. Has to be a comment. Same YouTube handle. Can't use multiple YouTube names. 1 pick per person per day. Win yourself a free month of Rotoscouts with that. Neither lineup is in. Absolute launching pad here at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. Not taking place, fortunately, in Las Vegas, which is clearly going to be a problem once the A's officially move there. That wasn't the park they're going to be playing in, but unless they put a dome and some monster walls and so on and so forth, that's going to get ugly for power in that ballpark. For today, JT Ginn is uncomfortably on the table. 22.4% strikeout. It comes against a 10.3% walk rate this year. It's caused some problems. 3.15 ERA, but a 4.05 xFIP, 4.20 SIERA. The 4-run pitcher is the JT Ginn that we know. He does have a little bit of potential for strikeouts. He struck out 25.3 last year while pitching to a 7.9% walk. So more strikeouts, fewer walks. The 11.9% swinging strike rate is at 11.7%. So a little realistic path toward getting those strikeouts back. That would make him more interesting. But last year he was a 5.08 ERA pitcher with a 3.52 xFIP, 3.57 SIERA. So we liked him for the underperformance last year. This year, a little bit of overperformance. Ballpark working against him, but a targetable enough Pirates lineup with no O'Neal Cruz in the lineup. Cruz on the IL for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Big problem for the dynasty team. So it diminishes the Pirates, but they still come in at a 5+ implied total. Price is okay at 93. Price is great at 77. Would and will use some JT Ginn shares. He is on the board. Don't be surprised if he has a good day. By that same token, the other side of that coin is don't be surprised if he gets utterly destroyed in this ballpark. There's some quality lefty bats in this Pirates lineup. Spencer Harwood's having a good year at 281, 382, 452. We've been talking about him since opening day as far as his quality for just getting on base, his sneaky good power. He's hit 9 home runs and 259 plate appearances already this season. He doesn't put up robust barrel and hard hit rates, but he's consistent at finding quality. 369 weighted on base, defied a little bit by that 328 xWOBA, but last year was the other way around. Oh, no, it wasn't. 344 weighted on base, but a 326x. So a little overperformance last year. What I was originally going to show with last year was that he hit 11 home runs in 411 plate appearances and is already at 9 in about half that many opportunities so far this year. So just finding the quality across the board. And his game is being low strikeout, heavy walk, a lot of on base, and a fair number of balls in play. So you just succeed through volume with Spencer Harwood. It's a very interesting bat to throw against JT Ginn here. Good correlated scoring piece with Brandon Lau, with Brian Reynolds, the guys you really want to get to. Lau has 17 home runs, monster lefty at second base, 54-37. Price is right / high to use him as a one-off. I think in combination with some of the cheaper guys, you could bring that price down a little bit on the average in what is not a terrible stacking option from a 5+ implied total. But I think also for the quality that JT Ginn displays, maybe the Pirates get a little overowned because I think people will choose to attack JT Ginn here given that total. And one of Ginn's attributes this year has been fantastic at limiting premium contact. 37% hard hit, 88.3 miles an hour of exit velo. Those are nothing marks. 6.3% barrel on a low sub 10 degree average launch on average. Last year, those numbers were pretty similar. The launch angle, the barrel rate, somewhat similar. The exit velo, pretty similar. He was just less consistent at limiting the hard hits. That's been an attribute for him this year. You can see the difference in the happenstance home runs. So he's really pulled some of his more positive attributes together kind of all at the same time. And that should have a limiting effect if he's able to do it in the ongoing against the Pirates here. So it wouldn't shock me if you saw the Pirates come up a little bit overowned and disappoint a lot of people. Brian Reynolds at 48 at 34. Pricing's caught back up to the quality. 270, 392, 441, 8 homers, 5 steals. That's a very good outfielder who's been an all-star over time. 9.9% barrel, just reclaiming what he lost from a bad year last year. O'Hearn at 49, 32 has been consistently good over the past 3 seasons. Finding some quality for hard hits, finding some decent home run totals, a lot of on base out of them. Still very, very usable. But if we're considering the Pirates as getting out to being overowned, all 4 of those guys are going to be the go-to Pirates. So those are going to be your most owned Pirates within a team that might get a little overowned. Nick Gonzalez, just a slap hitter, found a lot of success on BABIP so far at 301, 352, 370. I do not really like it to continue in the long term, but another guy who can succeed on poorly struck volume. Andy Rodriguez, a lot of barrels in small sample, 68 pretty good plate appearances from that perspective, but it leads to 226, 388, 396, kind of all over the place. He's gotten on base via 20.6% walk so far, 2 home runs, 2 steals. It's a usable high-end young player at 3,500 at catcher, 28 at first base on FanDuel, totally works. Tyler Callahan's been interesting since coming up. It's only 30 plate appearances. He's hit 2 homers, stolen a bag, made some good contact at the major league level in some of those batted ball events. He's cheap at third base, 2,400, 29 on FanDuel at second base. Outfield, you're booking a spot with a probably less than what it looks like type of a talent. If you're determined to build with Pirates, though, you can use them. You get O'Hearn at first or outfield. You get Reynolds for sure in the outfield. It's not the worst way, but if I'm using the Pirates, it's a team that provides several pretty good infield options. So probably looking at them more through that lens. I do think, though, again, considering that they're among the guys that are at the top of the lineup there, you probably do have Tyler Callahan a little bit more lightly owned just across the board. So it doesn't totally hurt as far as just using him in the outfield, just occupies a position where you could get a better bat. Jake Mangum, just a mix and match talent in the outfield. He's hitting for average. He's getting on base. He's stolen 13 bases in 155 chances. We saw that kind of a stretch from him last year, and then it completely cratered. 286 xWOBA under a just league average 320 actual shows the lack of overall quality. He's very cheap. He's a dart throw. And then Jared Triolo, a little bit of batted ball quality from time to time, but so far this season, no real upside to speak of. Last year, 6.2% barrel is kind of what I'm talking about. Low-end mixer from the bottom. The ballpark floats everybody. On the A side, Lawrence Butler in the projected leadoff role at 33-24, awfully cheap for a former 2020 guy playing in this ballpark, going up against Jared Jones, as all these A's are. Jones, just his fourth start back. I talked about the quality in the first three. I talked about the lack of depth in the first three, just capped at 5 innings against Houston in his second start, 4 innings in the most recent one against the Dodgers, was in a little bit of trouble in that game. Don't love the upside for a ceiling type start. I think these low projections that you're seeing in a bad pitching situation are both your mean projection and your ceiling type day. I don't think he comes out there and pitches 7 innings, even if things are going to plan, and finds 10 strikeouts. He is a very, very talented kid, a very good strikeout pitcher when things are going right. 15% swinging strike rate in the small sample so far this year. Missed all of last year with the surgery. Year before, we saw that dynamite stretch from him, 26.2% strikeout. Was higher than that, was 30 plus across the first 10 or so starts, and then kind of came back to earth as that year went on, and then got hurt and had been missing. But even for the full stretch, 14.1% swinging strike rate. I just think the ballpark, the opposing lineup, the power, everything about this spot, plus 5 inning cap, looks really limiting for any Jared Jones quality. Even at 7,000, you probably don't have a lot to work with there on DK. Would not play at 91 on FanDuel. So Butler's in the mix. Those are cheap prices, again, for a former 2020 talent. Nick Kurtz at 63, at 44, absolutely fire away. Monster upside for a homer from him, 13.83. Even when he's not putting the ball in the seats, he's getting himself to first base. Second in this group after a slow start at 16 home runs. 438 on base is ludicrous. Shea Langoliers just a tremendous fit at catcher. 6,000, very expensive to do it, but you find value in other spots on this slate. For 18 home runs to lead the team, and he's just been tremendous across his slash line, which is a new attribute for Shea Langoliers. He was good, not great last year. 277, 325, 536 through the slash line. Year before that, 224, 288, 450. This year he's at 281, 344, 539, just improving upon the building that he did last year while maintaining the home run quality. Absolute monster. Tyler Soderstrom at 5 at 34, entirely usable here. First base works, outfield works even better. He's outfield only on DraftKings, but moving around the board a little on FanDuel. 12 home runs, a 336 on base, 351 weighted on base with a 335 xWOBA that catches the eye. A little bit of overperformance going on, even with a dip in batting average, even with a dip in home run pace. But that remains a tremendous option. He's limited strikeout this year. It's just 17.8. That was 22.6, 24 going back the last 2 years. Pushed a little bit more walk upside at 12.2. So it's an improving young hitter with a lot going for him. Jacob Wilson back in this lineup, hit tool specialist. That's an interesting player just to get him on base, provide some correlated scoring. If you're going to the bottom of this lineup, you've got quality in Carlos Cortez. He's found tremendous batted ball upside this year, 6 home runs on the board, excellent 389 on base, closing in on 200 plate appearances, making it more and more real. Solid batted ball events out of him. Zach Geloff, another former 2020 guy, maybe on his way back. He's hit 9 homers and stolen 7 bases with a strong for him slash line so far. Jeff McNeil, just a slap hitter down the bottom of the lineup. Every now and then you can see Jeff McNeil go deep, but that's not really his game. Mix and match piece at the absolute best. And then the interesting Henry Bolte bringing up the bottom of the lineup. A homer, 5 stolen bases across 101, excellent plate appearances to start his career. That's a really interesting kid down the bottom of the lineup. 396 on base over 100 plate appearances. That is who he is. I mean, not 396 in an ongoing sense, but he's a heavy on base, good power, great speed type option. That's a player. 37, 28. He can wrap around too, given the skill set. So really interesting piece from the bottom of the lineup. Wouldn't be out of the question to double up him and Lawrence Butler. Go correlated scoring as a top end, correlated scoring from the wraparound for cheap in both. Helps you pay for those 2 spots and then grab your favorite out of the rest of the guys. That's a 4-man 48-25 average, but it includes Kurtz and Langoliers. And then let's say you bring it down even further with like a Jacob Wilson at shortstop. That gets you to 45-80, 22.9. It's still expensive. Don't get me wrong. It's difficult to do anything with those $6,000 prices, but it helps. Let's say we went with one of those cheap catchers and did that same exercise where we're only getting one of the $6,000 prices. Now I can get Soderstrom and I can get Jacob Wilson in there. I'm at 43.80. It's only a minor improvement, 21.9 total. But let's say we went around Soderstrom as well. We're making some sacrifices here, but we're getting to good players. And that combination with Wilson and Cortez coming out of the middle of this projected brings me down to 42.40. Now, I've compromised my way out of basically everybody I wanted to use, except for Kurtz. But I would absolutely consider everybody that's in there. So it's not a bad combination of players, even after making those compromises. And it's gotten more affordable. It's not what I'd call cheap, but gotten more affordable. A's bats. JT Ginn on DraftKings. JT Ginn on FanDuel. Pirates bats. Don't use Jared Jones. He's not going to pitch enough. Is it going to have a roof, Colin? That's probably a really good idea in a place where the temps can get out to 112 degrees. John Docio wants Cubs money line. Yeah, why not? I don't know what it's looking like, but yeah. Yeah, that looks like a great spot for Cubs. 5+ implied total against a terrible opponent with one of their better pitchers. The way you get burnt there is if Imanaga gives up the 4 home run day. But yeah, as long as you're getting an okay price, fire away. Tall Tale says definitely playing Dustin May today. He's a former first-round draft pick after all. Hey, there you go. Yet another log on the fire for Dustin May. He's going to be very, very popular as your SP2 on DraftKings. That's the best SP2 option on this board. I think a lot of people have that idea, but it's not wrong. Even at popularity, I think you use him and should. Another hitter-friendly situation here. Both teams well above 4 implied. I would consider some Ryan Nelson at 65 on DraftKings, just in the mix from the bargain bin. Doesn't need to do a lot. Doesn't need to have a crazy successful day on an ugly pitching slate. He's pitched to a 5.19 ERA, 5.02 xFIP, 4.77 SIERA is slightly better, but obviously still ugly. 17.5% strikeout doesn't exactly give you a lot of faith in an upside DFS day, nor do the above the line in all 3 categories premium contacts on a 20.1 degree average launch. All that does is feed the upside for power. You can see 3 guys in the Angels lineup above the magic number. So far this season, Ryan Nelson, a 5.21% home run rate. Last year, 2.75. That came on a 7.5% barrel. That's what he's really lost, but he's also lost a lot of launch. So guys are getting under the ball, putting it in the air to effective launch angles a lot more consistently so far this season. And that's led to the essential doubling of that home run mark in the small sample this year. That's where some of the ERA concerns come from, but obviously it's real contact given the underlying numbers. Last year, he had a great year. 23 very good starts, struck out 21.3 in a nice little uptick. 3.39 ERA was overperforming the 4.05 xFIP, 4.07 SIERA. But you can see those are a full run better than his underlying marks this year. I like him not to truly be that guy, but maybe the truth is like a 4.25 guy, like a half run better than that SIERA if we're really considering the longer term. Never a big strikeout guy, but can find good days. Against an Angels team that's going to offer him the opportunity to find some Ks, maybe he manages to miss some barrels along the way and limit the home run output. I don't like it. I don't consider it likely, but I will point out one thing that works on your side. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good locator. Pretty good pitcher. All 3 marks well above average in the plus categories. It's odd for the statistics he puts up, the output you actually get. He's more talented than he seems. And then Wobert Urena, who I discovered earlier is that's an Enye on that N. I didn't realize that. Thought it was Urena. 22.7% strikeout, but he's walking way too many at 13.6. He has been effective at keeping the ball down. He's been spectacular at inducing weak and medium contact. 32.5% hard hit, 87.2 miles an hour of exit velo. I don't fully believe that it stays 1.65% home run going forward, but I am allowing most of the impact for that to have its impact on these Diamondbacks because it's not the best home run hitting group anyway. You can see Ketel Marte almost at the magic number, Corbin Carroll only slightly behind, and then everybody else 5 and change or lower. And I think that's realistic for just who these Diamondbacks have been. But I like their opportunity to sequence with some low trajectory hits, with some walks, continue to do their thing in a hitter-friendly park, 4.78 implied total. D-backs definitely on the board. These 3 guys are actually good. Ketel Marte is at least stabilized, and you can see the underperformance in the 326 WOBA, but he's gotten himself above average there. 371X, long way to go to get to the actual quality, but he's up to 11 home runs. It's a very good player with more to give us. Corbin Carroll's just been good all season. 278, 370, 544 / 12 homers, 8 steals, continues to defy the hamate bone injury. Gabriel Moreno, 3,600 where you need the position. I do not understand. 264, 348, 447 slash line over, closing in on 200 plate appearances now. 10.2% barrel, 44.5% hard hit. Nice uptick in the quality of his contact as well as the frequency of his contact. 18.5% strikeout, 10.3% walk, getting on base like crazy. 366 xWOBA under a 349 actual tells us he's got more to give. I don't understand why he's only 36. Take advantage. Nolan Arenado, dramatic overperformance. 243, 324, 405. We're already starting to slide back down. 8 home runs on the board, but it's been a minute. 308 xWOBA under the 322 actual. He's always just barely above league average actual. 308 well below league average expected. And it just comes on nothing contact. I've been talking for a year plus about that slow, loopy, broken swing. And had a nice little outburst there. I think I corrected it by picking him up and then dropping him again on the Dynasty team. Pavin Smith, 25 across the board, 36 really bad plate appearances from him so far this year. He's quite a bit better than that, though. Last year, 8 home runs, solid slash line, 362 on base, most notably, 123 WRC plus. The name of his game is getting on base. He's an okay power bat, mid-teens type home runs if it was a full season, but 362, 348 with a 142 WRC plus. Even in this terrible 222 plate appearances, he still got on at a 317 clip. That's not good, but it shows a little bit of something in when he was in a year where he was otherwise just utterly struggling. Just ultimately a quad A type guy who gets shots when they need somebody. Smith's actually been in our lives for a while now. He is 30 already. Goes back to 2017 was his first year in the minors in low A. Reason that was fresh in the mind was I was looking back at some of our old files in the Dynasty League at the minor leagues at our drafts. And he was a minor league draft pick in the same year that Pete Alonso was. And it just seems like Pete Alonso, obviously here since day one and monster success, just like seems like he's been a part of our lives so much longer than a guy like Pavin Smith. Geraldo Perdomo, a guy I traded for over the weekend in the Dynasty League because he only cost $2 and fills middle infield for me. And he gets on base, 350 on base, even in a year in which he's been mostly scuffling throughout the season. 244, 350, 359, 4 home runs, 11 steals. Has an interesting 335 xWOBA under his league average, 321 actual, up to a 102 WRC plus. We need to see the consistency start to approach last year's numbers. 20 home runs last year, 27 stolen bases, a 389 on base. Year of his life so far. But even going back in time, before that crazy outburst, another player just excellent at getting on base. 388 very good plate appearances in 2024. He got on at a 344 clip, was a good run creator. Got on at a 353 clip down in 2023 before he was anything to anybody. So this is a guy who at worst is going to help you in on base and create some opportunities. Low strikeout, a lot of balls in play, or a walk at 13.7% walks this year. Jordan Lawler, high-end up-and-comer, 3,000. Perfectly reasonable across those 3 positions on FanDuel. 27, even better on DraftKings, third base and outfield. 320, 414, 480 probably normalizes a little bit, but he's a category filler. He's an interesting player. 4 stolen bases and a homer so far in the small stretch. Don't sleep on Jordan Lawler in your Diamondback stacks. Adrian Del Castillo, if you get both him and Gabby Moreno in the lineup, you can mix and match those guys. Del Castillo is the lower-end player, but he has the ability to drive the ball from the left side. Moderate sample of plate appearances last year and the year before for barrels for hard hits. Not bad. And then Tommy Troy, just a mix and match piece from the last spot. D-backs. Angels. Ryan Nelson. Waba Urena getting very dicey. I don't like that price on Urena at all at 83. Would not use him at 95 on FanDuel. And that brings us to our last game. Already. I say already, but it's been 2 hours. Felt like it was faster than that. Yeah, Gabby's a really interesting catcher. Wayne Stark had asked what position Gabby Moreno plays. Always call those questions out, guys. Happy to help. Easy, challenging, easy, medium, or hard questions. We'll tackle them all. The show is better, in my opinion, when it's a dialogue. Especially when you guys pointed out, I forget who pointed out the reverse splits, and I forget who it was for on, I think, Friday's show. That was a good call out earlier today. Somebody called out the home road splits on Mackenzie Gore, which we talked about, make total sense, but is a thing so far this year. It's not something we like to go by, But anything you guys are wondering about, anything you want to call out, point out to me, tell me I'm wrong about or not noticing, please do. The show is better as a dialogue, and I am not sitting up on some throne saying, hey, I'm smarter than all you guys. You got to listen to me. I like to pick things up from you guys as much as you might like to pick them up from me. Hit the like button for the last game up. We do have the Dodgers. We don't have the Rays in terms of the lineups. Nick Martinez on the mound at 8 on DraftKings. Dart throw at best, and not a well-priced one. At 94 on FanDuel, that's just bananas. You can see the numbers for yourselves, guys. Nick Martinez is a 13% strikeout pitcher. Yeah, he doesn't walk anybody. He doesn't give away opportunities, but a 4.5 xFIP and even higher SIERA against that 2.43 ERA. He's a fly ball trajectory pitcher as well. He has been good at inducing weak and medium contact, but this is a different animal when we're talking about this Dodger squad on the other side. He's just in trouble today. And even if he's keeping the ball down, even if he's leading to weak and medium contact, they're going to find success. 5.46 in the Vegas total. Just don't do it. Definitely not here. Few and far between across 150 lineup portfolio at the absolute outside on DraftKings. That is not a good option. Eric Lauer at 58 is probably a better option on DraftKings because, for one, he's not facing the Dodgers. He's terrible, or has been this year. 5.47 ERA with a similar xFIP and SIERA. 11.2% barrels allowed on a 21.6 degree average launch, leading to a 6.70% home run rate. That's nowhere near the quality that we've seen from Eric Lauer in years past. But even when he was going right, he was giving up a ton of fly balls, a lot of hard hits, a lot of exit velo, well over the line there and there. Lucky to hit 3.55% home runs last year. Missing a few barrels saved him in those 15 starts. Give him another 15 last year. I think that goes over 4. I think he's more in the long term, this guy, the 4 type run guy, 4.25, somewhere around there, more strikeout than we've seen from him this year. But that came, this is explainable by losing 2 percentage points of swinging strike and just everything that's in the zone getting crushed. Not what I'd call a good pitcher right now. Not somebody I'd really consider at 75 on FanDuel against a Rays team that's just good at scoring runs. A lot of on base, some power showing. 58 on DraftKings comes in as a value play just because of the math of the thing, especially on a day where Chase Burns no guarantee, and then nobody else on this slate is approaching ace status. So at 58, if those guys go even a little bit sideways, you get increasingly more competitive just for having that price in, whether or not Lauer's even good. So it's at least a consideration as an SP2 value dart. Total bargain bin, honestly, scrape him off the floor under the bargain bin. But he's there. More so by a dramatic leap than Nick Martinez at 8 against the Dodgers. Rays bats would play the other way, though, against Eric Lauer here. And if he gets at all considered for public lineups, then even more so. Yandy Diaz is spectacular at the top of the lineup. He's drawn a 9.64 in the home run model. He's got a dozen on the season. He's also getting on base at a 399 clip, which is not wildly uncharacteristic. That's just Yandy Diaz being one of the best hitters in baseball and never gets the credit for it. He is somebody that the DFS community is at least aware of, though. Still have that wrinkle where he's first and third, but that doesn't help because you want Jonathan Aranda and you want Junior Caminero in your lineups. Both of those guys, all 3 of those guys, that's your 3 top priority bats from this team. So it sucks you can only have 2 of them on DraftKings before you hit the mix and match basically rest of this lineup. More usable on FanDuel where you can go first base, util third base, and then pick your poison with the low end guys. Aranda, 12.3% barrels, 45.8% hard hits, 11 home runs, 375, just elite at getting to first base or crushing a baseball, 14% walk rate. Junior Caminero, as mentioned at the top of the show, slightly behind Jordan in my home run model. He is available for you guys to pick. And in the Fangraphs game sims, was above a 10% probability to hit a home run. That's wild. Like I talked about, that works on the backbone of, like we saw with the Cubs compared to my numbers, which were similar, but not exactly quite as high. Works off of season-long, rest of season type projections. One projection set going through in a very specific way, but it does jibe with this 17, maybe not to 10%, but that's closing in on double the average home run rate, which if it's 3 to 5 should be 6 to 10. So kind of jibes. 15 homers on the season so far for Junior and 300 plate appearances. Absolute masher of baseball's fire away. He looks great today. Ryan Velotti, mix and match piece at worst, 291, 356, 447. Another guy who's just doing Tampa Bay Rays things. They just have this unending supply of these like replacement level name type guys that can come in and just get on base and deliver run creation, deliver scoring. He doesn't hit the ball particularly hard, but he doesn't really strike out. He's drawing the walk. It's an interesting enough option in the outfield for a cheap price. Austin Slater, at worst, mixer type, 65 pretty bad plate appearances this season. Last year was pretty poor, over 160. Year before, 212, also pretty bad. Going all the way back to 2023, over 207 opportunities was quite good. 273, 48, 400 with 5 homers, a 110 WRC plus. But it's been a long minute since we've seen any actual quality out of Austin Slater. Typically gets in the lineup on the weak side of platoons like this, though, against lefties. Ben Williamson, mix and match piece, 255, 331, 336. Another guy holding down a pretty good on-base percentage, over 167 plate appearances. Hasn't led to much with just that 90 WRC plus. Doesn't really hit the ball hard, but low strikeout, high walk rate, reasonable option for correlated scoring. 295 pretty similar plate appearances without the on-base quality. You can see how bad that was. So any given slate could give a little success. There's a chance for a dramatically bad performance and a 0, though. Chandler Simpson, we've talked about the stunning lack of output, the 71 WRC plus, the low end on base, the only 14 stolen bases. It's been weird for Chandler Simpson. That skill set is unique, though. You can definitely take shots if he's in their lineup at all. Nick Fortes, mix and match quality catcher, 269, 310, 350. If you're going to this team, you can do worse at the catcher spot than just building him into a stack. What he's not is a prime one-off type catcher. He's low strikeout, low walk, though, so a lot of balls in play. The barrels, the hard hits, they come and go with that hitter. And then Taylor Walls, mixer at short, don't really like it. If you're going to this team, you're just looking at a batted ball event and a stolen base, but his batted ball events are of very low quality. He doesn't get to first base more consistently than the average. He's stolen 10 bags, doesn't really qualify in my mind as a wraparound back to the high quality bats at the top, but maybe he's a cheap access point. It just sucks that you would have to put him at short to do that. At second on FanDuel, maybe it works a little bit better. You're there and like those 4 and you've lowered them slightly. It's a $3,400 average. It's not great. Taylor Walls isn't very good. Then the Dodgers are the Dodgers. They come in with their confirmed lineup with Ohtani in the leadoff role, and the Pages providing a ton of quality in the 2 spot. Pages holding down the talent to keep that role. He's not miscast, hitting second, 15 homers on the board. He's not their best bat in a lineup that includes Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, and Kyle Tucker, but he's been very good. 225 ISO, can absolutely crush the ball. Freddie, 12.1% barrel, a solid slash line at 275, 363, 473, 11 home runs. The price on DK continues to strike me as being a little bit low at $5,100. Freddie's a $5,500 first baseman. He's lost a few points of batting average year over year the last 2 seasons, but who cares? Everything else he does is still superstar level, and that's just happenstance batting average. Who cares about? It's just dumb. 45 from Mookie at short, 3,000. Fire away, 204, 267, 374. But who cares about those 161 plate appearances over which he's at least made interesting contact? He's limited strikeout like Mookie Betts. Drawing walks occasionally. The balls in play haven't been great, but he has hit 7 home runs along the way. 332 is a pretty good xWOBA under a 283 actual for a player that we know is an all-star. He's just cheap. It's a bargain option at the position. Definitely would play Mookie at shortstop. Would look to play Mookie at shortstop, honestly. Max Muncy, they're doing you a favor with that DK price of 48. Same deal on FanDuel at 31. One of the best 3 true outcomes hitters in baseball. 16 home runs, a 371 on base, a 394 xWOBA under, a 391 actual. And this guy costs $3,100 at third, $4,800 at third. That's probably your top of mind outside of Junior Caminero, maybe on the other side. That's probably your best way to fit at third base. Right? Is there another top quality third baseman on this slate? I mentioned Bo Bichette's eligibility at the position over there. Yeah, that is a killer option at that position. Underperforming Kyle Tucker at 47 at 32. His price is way down for the ongoing quality from over years. 235, 334, 375 is just not who Kyle Tucker is. Last year, 266, 377, 464 with 22 homers and 25 steals in what was considered a down season at the time. Half a season the year before, 289, 408, 585 with 23 homers. Year before that, 284, 369, 517 with 29 homers and 30 stolen bases. Kyle Tucker is the $500 million superstar that they bought. I don't think I would pay him that much, but they did. They'll get their money's worth at some point. Just keep going back to Kyle Tucker as the prices are way down. If they were asking 6 and 4 for him, we'd be having a different conversation. But right now, where they're pricing him, it's a bargain. Monster ongoing upside. Ryan Ward has found some good batted ball events. 3 home runs and 41 plate appearances. Consistency hasn't exactly been there. A lot of strikeout, not a lot of walk in his game, but he could definitely drive the ball at a very cheap 34 on DK. You can see FanDuel already has him at 31. Still cheap for this lineup, but it's right in line. I'd rather have Max Muncy. I'd rather have Mookie Betts and so on. But he's very playable from the left side. Dalton Rushing, prime catcher option, 8 home runs in 136 chances. A lot of good batted ball events out of him. And then Alex Freeland, a solid mixer at second base for a cheap price, second or third on FanDuel. He's been okay over 160 plate appearances. Can't really speak about a good batting average, good on base, or good slug or anything in there. Substandard as far as weighted on base goes, with 3 homers, a couple of decent DFS days, 10.6% walk rate to support a little bit of idea of upside. In 55 plate appearances in AAA this season, 4 home runs, 265, 345, 592 when he went down a level as a 24-year-old. So he's not completely miscast, still being in AAA at that age. Last year, as a 23-year-old in AAA, 508 plate appearances, 16 homers, 18 steals, 263, 384, 451. Across AA and AAA the year before that, as a 22-year-old, this is actually impressive, 18 homers, 31 steals, 260, 387, 442 with a 135 WRC+. That is a player. Just because he hasn't done it completely at the major league level yet doesn't mean he doesn't have talent. Buried for cheap at the bottom of the Dodgers lineup at a crucial position, second base. Yeah, Larry, all the way back to the beginning of the season, or the beginning of the show, I did pull up the splits for Mackenzie Gore for the home road, and it's just truly not something I care that much about because it's already factored in with the fact that that's just a good pitcher's park. It's typically so low sample that I don't really love just saying in any given season, like, yep, this guy's an advantage when he's pitching in his home park. Some of that does exist, I'm sure, but it's limited as far as our ability to quantify it anything more than the actual just park factors do him a favor already anyway. So it just makes total sense to me. It's just support. That's the right way to put it. That's, for me, supporting information for thinking that Mackenzie Gore is an upside guy today, but not something we want to quantify, not something that goes into the model outside, again, of the park factors that already exist that are on his side. It's just support for the idea that that's a good spot. But it's very real, or it's very true that he has pitched well in that home park this year. And then, in an ongoing sense, I don't like home road splits because, one, if guys change teams, it's obviously meaningless, which he did. But it's also, all right, yeah, you got that stretch of opponents, but how much change went on year over year with who's in the opposing lineups? Was that a good team that year that you beat at home, or was that a bad team? You lose a lot of that once you start compounding those different samples year over year. So like to look at the overall, like to look at who the pitcher actually is. We know Mackenzie Gore's pretty well so far. He's a roller coaster, but he's a guy you can go to. Not a guy I would call reliable. Here he is, technically projecting behind JT Ginn on DraftKings, only by a fraction of a point. Probably your better option there, considering the ballpark that JT Ginn's pitching in. But similar opponents, Pittsburgh without O'Neal Cruz and the Twins. Plenty of back and forth in your DraftKings board through those 4 guys. Melton right now, I think, comes down a little bit. I mentioned when we were talking about that game, I might just lower that a little to reflect his low-end strikeout nature so far in the show. As I was talking it through, it struck me as maybe being a little bit high. 10-3 on FanDuel, you would need him to be in this territory with these guys failing to pay that off. But those 4 DK prices work. I would probably rank him 4th behind May, certainly as the top option there. And then I would probably say it goes May, Gore, Ginn, with not that much difference between those two, but you probably gain a massive amount of low-owned upside in JT Ginn by comparison to Mackenzie Gore, and certainly by comparison to Dustin May, who I think is easily the top SP2 option on the board and going to be very, very popular. Imanaga plays more as an SP1. Visible downside, if he's given up the premium contact, had a very good game in Coors Field against this team just last week, or a usable game anyway. Class of the slate easily. Bends quickly at those prices, though, and the Mets, not a good lineup with the way they've been performing, but it's not a completely dead one either. I think I would, Colin. I would, put it the way you put it in the second half of that. See what you get with Jones. You're on DK, right? At 7,000, you could see what you get. The issue there is that price really compares pretty favorably with that more realistic group of pitchers. There's a lot of downside in that ballpark. There are strikeouts for him, and he's got great strikeout stuff when everything's on form. But like I said, even on a good day, even if he's blazing his way through a pretty efficient game, a couple hits, but no runs, no damage, no homers, certainly, a couple few strikeouts along the way, they probably pull him after 5 or 5 and change. Gets in any trouble in any semblance of a sixth inning, and he's done. And even if he goes out and has a good strikeout day, that doesn't necessarily feed the upside for pitching longer because strikeouts take up pitch count, right? So not a great option. On DK, I would at least let a few fly through process, though. Maybe run a batch to begin and see where they come up. And if they're tremendously set apart as far as potential for success, then yeah, if your process likes it at that price, then sure. But you've also got to keep in mind, you've got a cheaper Ryan Nelson. I wouldn't say that Ryan Nelson, all things being equal, shares ceiling with Jared Jones, but all things aren't necessarily equal here. So that $500 of additional price with a little bit more realistic upside for a 6-inning type of reasonably good outing, changes that equation. Lauer at 58, I have even less faith in, but that is, again, the same conversation, the offset in price, the offset in popularity. So there's a lot of factors going into that low-end spot where we're probably only getting 5, even if things are going great. What you would need is like the 9 strikeouts in 5 innings, just utterly fantastic Jared Jones day. And that's not out of the question. He is that good. But yeah, I don't really like that spot. I never like completely taking things out. That's why I'm hemming and hawing here. So that's why I think the best thing you said there is, run some, see what it looks like, make your decision from there. But my strong opinion is that you're not going to like those lineups. Everybody down here is pretty bad. 2 of those guys are wildly mispriced in Nick Martinez and Walter Urena on both sites. Not a one of those guys strikes me as overly usable. It's a short slate, but it's a slate with some meat on the bone at okay to good DraftKings prices. Pretty poor FanDuel prices across several of those guys. And the guys that are good prices are the guys you want less than the other guys in that group. They're the guys who are barely scraping by to get into that group. Better DK pitching day than it is FanDuel. You're going to have to make some choices on FanDuel. That said, you guys, let me show you the rules for the home run picks contest. There's your stacks board again. Here's your home run picks contest. Ongoing day after day until somebody wins. First to 5 correct picks wins a free month of content at Rotoscouts. You can use it now for baseball only. Not my fault. Hockey and basketball ended. Let's go Knicks. Love it. Hate the fact that the Canes won the cup, but we'll deal with that some other time. You can hold that month in your pocket until September when football comes back and get all that content too. Whatever you guys want to do with it, whenever you want to use it, perfectly fine by me. Joker seems to be about to throw up across the room here. Buddy, why don't you go take that somewhere else? Poor guy. I think he was licking his back again, so it's like a cat with a hairball. Poor guy. Okay, good. You didn't puke all over my floor. I don't have anything to clean up after the show. Good boy, buddy. I'll take you out in a minute. First to 5 wins you that free month. Multi-day contest. You got to leave it as a comment after the video is done. Got to use the same YouTube handle every day from my sanity. I'm not going to track you across multiple names, so put them all under the same name. You can see it's an ongoing scoreboard. Leader right now is Loyalty Chisel at 2. Cujo also tied at 2. Larry C with 1. Nobody else has a correct one yet. You only get 1 opportunity to use Ohtani or Judge. You cannot use my home run pick of the day, which today is Jordan Alvarez. And it has to be from the games discussed during this show. And you can only pick on today's show for today. Somebody left one on a show from like 4 days ago over the weekend. Those don't count. So only slates we're actually talking about. With that in mind, you guys also take advantage. They might all be gone by now. There were 2 or 3 left of those free weeks that Cubs fan bought for everybody. First free week on the weekly, promo code Cubs win, capital C, capital W. If you're hearing me say this right now and those are closed out, come to me in Discord. Let me know. I'll carve you out a free week anyway. How about that? Good luck out there tonight, gang. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at Rotoscouts on Twitter or free premium Discord linked in the description below the video. Don't forget to come back and leave a comment with your home run pick. Like, subscribe, and go get them. We'll be back for a probably longer show tomorrow. That'll be fun. See you, gang.